persistent to that system, because I think he should have said, listen, I do favour the 3-4-3 system. I've had a lot of success with it. I hope I can make it work at Manchester United, but I need to look at the players that I've got.
Yeah.
I need to look at the Premier League, and maybe I have to tweak a few things to make sure that I get things going, and that hasn't happened.
And it seems to be one in, one out at Old Trafford. As we understand, Marcus Rashford has his loan deal in place with Barcelona. But European football expert Kevin Hatchard has told us Rashford was very much the second choice for the Spanish side.
This might not have happened. In fact, I don't think it would have happened if the Nico Williams deal had been completed, because Barcelona wanted to sign Nico Williams from Athletic Club. He's been a target of theirs for a long, long time. But that fell over at the last minute. And so they turned to Marcus Rashford, who's a player who I think they have admired for quite a while.
All your latest is at talkSPORT.com.
And a very good morning to you. It's Sam Matterface alongside Simon Jordan here on talkSPORT this morning. So Manchester United get their key target in Bryan Mbeumo. Is Ruben Amorim finally beginning to mould his squad? But have they had to pay a United tax in the process? Meanwhile, we'll be crossing to Switzerland ahead of the Lionesses. Women's Euro semi-final tonight. Big game against Italy. It's live on talkSPORT. The Football Governance Act has received royal assent, and we're going to be joined in the studio by the trainer of Daniel Dubois, Don Charles, to find out whether or not there was a party held at Daniel's house ahead of his loss to Alexander Usyk, or if he knew anything about it. That was on Saturday night. This is Tuesday morning. It's Sam Matterface, Simon Jordan, and we're live on talkSPORT.
100% engagement. Jim White and Simon Jordan on talkSPORT.
Morning, Simon.
Morning.
Looking forward to Don Charles?
Yeah, it's nice to see Don. Yeah, despite the exalted company of the Matterface, I'm trying to work out why I'm still the last man standing on this show. Jim's gone, Luke's gone, Joe's gone, and I'm standing around like the proverbial bad penny. I need to have a word with myself.
Well, listen, there's still a few people hanging around at Manchester United. Jadon Sancho is still there. Malacius, Anthony and Garnacho, all training away from the first team squad, but certainly Manchester United have got their hands on one or two acquisitions this summer, and one of those is Bryan Mbeumo, because they've signed him in a deal worth 65 million quid plus 6 million in add-ons. He is the second top target, as the club call it, that has been signed this summer. He made clear from the outset he wanted to join Manchester United. Only Haaland, Salah, Isaac and Watkins have more Premier League goals than Mbeumo over the course of the last 3 seasons. He ranks 7th in total for Premier League goal contributions in that period. Neil Warnock was on this show with us yesterday. He said actually what he would have done if he was Manchester United manager was build from the back. So after the signings of Mbeumo and Cunha, will Manchester United improve next season? Where realistically do you think they'll finish?
Well, it's going to be difficult for them to be worse than last season, and there's going to be a real achievement. It's interesting for a football club whose one of its main operatives gave an interview in the early part of this year saying they nearly ran out of money, that they're able to spend like drunken sailors. So there's an interesting dynamic there. I don't know. I mean, I think that the irony of the characterisation of a United tax is sort of ironic, given the fact that the player made his position very clear that he only wanted to go to one football club, and that normally works as an advantage, because if the player is prepared to come to the party, then the selling club finds himself in a slightly invidious position where player doesn't want to play for you anymore, wants to go somewhere else, might be prepared to make a few noises about that, and that normally works in the favour of the buying club. It doesn't seem to have worked in this situation where Man United seem to have had to pay what I consider, and Neil was observing on it yesterday as well, a significant amount of money. But this is the irony of the transfer market. This is the irony of football. When we listen to people talk about football governance and we talk about the structure of football and the finances around football, and then you see transfers going for £70 million for players that I think are good players, but we've lost sight of the reality of how much things cost now. £70 million for a footballer that plays for Brentford. Well done to Matthew Benham and his team for being able to exact that kind of money. Well done for being in a position where you produce players that operate at a high level at Brentford. The big step off, the big question, which has to be answered only by his appearances, is how does he embrace the challenges that playing for Man United brings, that has fallen on so many players' shoulders over the last 12 years since Ferguson departed, and so many of these players have fallen short of the standard, or so many players have found the shirt heavy to wear. Whether he will or not is a different matter. But clearly, the manager is now beginning to shape certain things in terms of players that he wants to bring in, because if they're not his players, then Christ almighty, what's going on there? But I don't know what it says about United and the way that they want to play. Neil talked about the idea of, he thought it was unwise, Neil Warnock, yesterday, of coming into the team and saying this is how we want to play. But that's precisely what Pep Guardiola did. Pep Guardiola walked into the Premier League in 2006 and said, this is where I'm going to play, and everyone, you can't do this in English football. And he proceeded to do it. Amorim seems to have had a race with himself to the bottom to set himself a low standard, managed to achieve it, and now ultimately is in a situation where I think it can only be upwards. Whether these two, I like Cunha. I think he's a difficult player to handle. Various conversations I've had with various people at Wolves, including Gary O'Neill, suggest that he's a prestigious talent, but also a temperamental one. And I think certain players in the Wolves dressing room were not having the culture of coming in when you felt like it and turning up late and whatever else. And I'm not sure that will be tolerated at United, and neither should it be at any football club. But as a player, he has all the hallmarks of a quality player that could get United playing, but it doesn't answer the questions of how United are going to deal with the structure of the defensive side of the team that seems to have been the biggest challenge.
Well, interestingly, I'm going to disagree with Neil Warnock a little bit later on. I've got some points on whether or not he is right to sort of assume that Manchester United need to build from the back, and I'll tell you why I think the opposite is true.
Well, I think it's wrong. I think he's wrong because I think he's not pricing into the fact this is Man United. Man United, I know that once upon a time there was this idea that Man United were a cavalier side under Ferguson. They weren't at times, they were a pragmatic side. But when you're Man United, your job is to be an offensive, attacking side, and just shutting the back door and building it in Warnock style, which is ultimately we don't concede goals and we build from there, is a mentality that probably lies in lesser football clubs.
Yeah, and
with respect to Neil.
And we'll do that in the next few minutes. You talked about creating the environment and maybe the culture that Ruben Amorim needs. He's getting his group together: Garnacho, Malacia, Sancho and Anthony, not going on the Asian tour, which starts today. They're about to leave for that. Is he playing to the gallery in Burma when he says about the positive environment? Is he sort of, towing the party line there, or can you see?
What's he said?
He said that when he walked through the door, he praised the positive environment that Ruben Amorim is creating at the club.
Well, and there's nothing more positive than being wanted and coveted by a manager coming to arguably one of the biggest world clubs in football that's in the current malaise. So there's nothing more positive than that. And of course, like in an interview, and like when you're the Queen, all you smell is new paint. He's walking into an environment where you would assume that Amorim's delighted to have got him. He's pushed his owners to spend 70 million quid on a Brentford footballer. So I'm assuming that Mbama's walked into an environment that's positive. Now let's see how that plays out when things don't quite go the way that people think they should. The season starts, expectations rise again. Amorim's under pressure. They don't start well. We'll see how it goes. I worry, insofar as I have any worry for United, that culturally, I know we make a lot of stock in this, and sometimes in the modern day it's not so prevalent, but there seems to be a lack of leadership in that dressing room still. I don't think Cunha and Mbama are leaders. I think they're good players. Cunha's got a lot to say for himself. He talked about his love for Wolves whilst telling everyone he wanted to leave. I'm not sure that's leadership qualities, but he's got a strong personality. Fernandes has grown, but I don't think he's a sort of grab you by the scruff of the neck leader that maybe that dressing room requires. The marginalisation of these other players, I think it's right. I think that Rashford and Sancho and Garnacho have cut their cloth accordingly, and it needs to be dealt with because I don't think they're right for Man United. They might be talented footballers, but that ship has sailed. I think they for their own sake, need changes. So a positive environment, yes. He's not going to walk in the door and say, "Christ, what have I walked into here?" And so you can take it with a pinch of salt, or accept the fact that Amorim is now going to get his backside down and his head up and start building this Man United team and stop telling everybody how much of a problem it is.
United's opening offer for Mbama was 45 million quid with a further 10 million in add-ons. Now, the first offer is always the start of a negotiation, but United haven't been very good at those historically. They've paid top price for every player over the last few years that they could, that they've signed. Every time you get into a bidding war, I remember the Leicester Harry Maguire situation. They started low and then ended up paying the price that Leicester quoted them in the first place.
Well, they don't have the currency anymore, do they? The currency that they had, the United tax, was the other way. It was basically the draw.
Because people wanted to go there.
Correct. And then you saw that sort of changing when the boy Alexis Sanchez chose to go to Manchester United over Man City because Man United were paying more money than Man City. And you thought to yourself, hang on a second, when did it become that the only reason you go to Man United is because you get more dough? Of course it's part of the equation, but it wasn't the driving factor. The lure and the lustre and the opportunity to play for this football club that was likely to deliver outcomes, and also was the prestigious football club in English football. Now it's a football club that's steeped in problems. It's sort of baked into people's psyche now that ultimately going into United comes with a whole raft of challenges, including a manager that isn't in control of things.
But because as say you're a football club owner in the Premier League who's selling a player to Manchester United, or is the subject of someone who's got a player that wants to go to Manchester United, or they want, are you charging them more because you know how desperate they are to improve their team?
Well, in a commercial discussion, it's not a case of charging somebody more. You always want to, in any deal, whether you're selling to one of the big clubs or selling to a club that has a desperate need, or whatever the circumstances, your job and your aspiration is to get the most value from the deal, the maximum amount, and in fact get more than perhaps a player's worth. Now with Brentford, first of all, there's no particular need to sell for Brentford, so you've got that disadvantage. And the player coming out and saying that the only place he wanted to go was Manchester United, as I said a moment ago, is normally advantageous. In this instance, it appears not to have been, because it then puts Manchester United in a situation where Brentford are not bothered about selling him. The new manager would prefer to have him, because not only have you got Brentford making a big disposal, they've already made one. Their captain's gone to Arsenal, so they're beginning to see certain parts of the team broken up, and you've got a manager in place that is an educated investment. I know that most people would say, and I think most people have looked at it and gone, wow, this is some appointment, Keith Andrews. I would suggest if it wasn't being made by Brentford, then I would be scratching my head much more vigorously than I am in this instance, because of the propensity for Brentford and the Brightons of the world to be very diligent in the reasons why they make decisions. But this is not a value, this is not an added bonus for Keith Andrews losing this player. So the position for Brentford was, we're not going to blink. So if you want this player, you're going to have to wrench him out of us, and you're going to have to pay precisely what we want, otherwise stay he will.
Manchester United unhappy with Brentford, apparently. It's been reported that United were upset with the valuation. It changed repeatedly, was being sort of quoted at 70 million plus 7 million at one point, and the club are also said to believe that they feel as if the Bees would have preferred for their player to move to Newcastle or Spurs. What sort of purpose does it serve to brief members of the media that they're unhappy with Brentford and how they've conducted themselves?
It's like a sense of entitlement, isn't it? I mean, it's like about a year ago, we had to listen to Jim Ratcliffe telling us how preposterous it was that Newcastle weren't making it easier for them to take down Ashworth, as if it was a given right. The United have the God-given right to go where they want, take what they want, and do what they want. I remember years ago watching Rupert Lowe as Southampton chairman, changing them. I was trying to buy James Beattie from Southampton, and every conversation I agreed a price with him, he'd come back and say, well, I want another $1 million. And after about 7 of these conversations, I got fed up with it. He started to blame it on Glenn Hoddle, which I said to him at the time I didn't think was very Christian of Glenn, to keep changing the price points. But that's what happens in deals. If you get somebody moving, very rarely do you get to a situation where everybody sits in a room and goes, right, we're all going to act with absolute integrity, we're all going to stick to our words, and we're all going to do exactly what we say we're going to do. The moment you get somebody saying, well, I'll do this and do that, then you see that there's an opportunity to move them even further. Okay, if they do that. Because the last thing you want is seller's regret. The last thing you want to walk out of the room and go, geez Louise, I could have got 10 more than that.
Yeah. You're listening to Matterface and Jordan. We're here on talkSPORT right the way through till 1 o'clock with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. United fans, are you happy with the signing of Brian Mbeumo and the way the squad is shaping up ahead of the new season? 03717 223344. You can text us 81089. And Neil Warnock said on this programme yesterday that he would have done it a different way, not signed strikers and attacking midfield players. He would have started to build from the back. I disagree with that. I'll tell you why next. Another big day of live sport on talkSPORT. England playing in the quarterfinals of the Women's European Championships tonight against Italy. Kicks off at 8 o'clock live on talkSPORT. And the Test series may have begun for the British and Irish Lions, but there's still another match on the tour taking place today. And watching for us, Alfie Reynolds.
Good morning from the talkSPORT position here in Marvel Stadium, where the Lions are going to be playing their final tour game against the First Nations and Pacifica 15. This is a match that in many ways is a bit of a nuisance for the Lions, falling between the first and second test, but it does have value. Returning from injury is Blair Kinghorn, the fullback, and Gary Ringrose on the bench. And we also see Owen Farrell captain the side from inside centre. How many players that feature today could also feature in the second test against the Wallabies at the MCG on Saturday, a potential series decider with the Lions 1-0 up. We will have all of the action for you over on talkSPORT 2 with kick-off at 11 a.m.
Looking forward to that. If you want to listen to it, you can download the app and you can flick between both stations. Just having a quick look here because we're getting some breaking news that Christian Mosquera has been given permission to travel to Singapore to join Arsenal on their pre-season tour. Central defender who has been playing in Spain has been eyed up for Arsenal for quite some time. Mikel Arteta was talking about new signings still possibly coming into the club yesterday when he did his pre-match
that's a welcome addition to his threadbare squad, apparently.
It is, yes. Another one. So he's got, it looks like Mosquera is going to get through the door, and we'll discuss that a little bit later on as well, because that squad is starting to get more numbers. Talking in numbers, I said you was going to disagree with Neil Warnock. With all respect, I went back last night and did a little bit of research on the data for Manchester United over the course of the last few seasons. And if you look at the way that the seasons have shaped up, they've had the 10th best defence, the 6th best defence, and they've had the defence where only 2 teams conceded fewer goals than them in the league. So defensively, they haven't had too many issues. Okay, 10th best defence isn't great, but 6th best and 3rd best is pretty good. The problem is they've been 15th in terms of goal scoring. 54 goals they got last season. They were 8th when they finished in the top 6 for goal scoring. The team in the top half with the lowest number of 4 goals, and the same when they finished 3rd. They had 58 goals. That was 7th best in the league. If you have a look at the course of the last 3 seasons for a team like Tottenham, who have mirrored them in terms of finishing position, Tottenham have scored 70 goals, 61 goals, 64 goals. The champions are scoring goals in the 80s and 90s. Manchester United, for the last few seasons, haven't scored enough goals, and that is why they're signing Cunha and Mbeumo first.
Yeah, I would imagine there's an element of that involved, but I also think off the structure of a team, you know, when you're building a side that wants to be offensive, you have to build off a strong platform so that you're able to create the balance in the side. And I think sitting in a room with people like Danny Murphy and Martin Keown, who constantly rail about the easiness of playing against Man United and how easy it is to play against them in the middle of the park. So whilst it might not be central defenders, it is players of an ilk that gives them a platform to build off. So when the team goes into transition, that they're solid and they can build from. And I understand your statistic of the haven't conceded many goals, but also goals are also scored by having structure in place and teams that can play in a certain way and know that they can be offensively brave, knowing that if the ball is lost, when the transition turnover comes over, they're not going to be hurt the way that United often were last season. So I take the points that maybe Neil's looking at from the broadest brush of perspectives, but the core principle of having solidity in the team, and United are not solid, they're not a solid side, and the debate again with Danny that was talking about the midfield players that they've got and how that they play and how easy they are to play against, I know is sort of contradicted by the fact that they haven't conceded as many goals as perhaps the ideal of building a more solid defensive unit, but he's made his play about playing with a 3 and building from that position. So it is not wrong for Neil to say that he'd be looking in that way because the 3 that he's got isn't working.
Totally understand that, but I do think 44 goals, I think I said 54 just a minute ago, 44 goals scored over the course of the season for Manchester United. Their XG was 57, which means that they are missing loads of big chances as well. Des is a Manchester United fan. Hello.
Good morning, Sam. Good morning, Simon.
Thanks for coming on. What do you want to say?
Well, I've been on the show on 2 occasions in the past, and big, massive Manchester United fan. On both of those occasions, I was actually defending Ten Hag, believe it or not. Simon may remember me. We had a very interesting discussion off the back of me saying that Ten Hag deserved more time, and there was speculation of him about to lose his job. And I believe Simon at the time was saying he was not the man, he is not the man, he's not the right man for Manchester United. Now, what I just want to point out is that sometimes I think we have to be very careful for what we wish for. I'm not saying Ten Hag was absolutely perfect. I will say he obviously won. He won silverware at Manchester United in the limited time that he was there. I do believe there are players that weren't necessarily on board with Ten Hag at the time. However, what I want to point out is regarding the Mbeumo transfer fee, is it justifiable? Well, we have someone, just to put something into perspective here, we have someone in Hugo Ekitike who I believe has been valued around the £80 million mark for Liverpool. And interestingly, in his career, he scored 44 senior goals in his whole entire career. By comparison, Eddie Nketiah of Crystal Palace has scored 37 goals in a much more harder competition, by the same age. Now, would we actually value Nketiah as an £80 million player, given the fact that he's actually played, he's in the Premier League in a more difficult league? So I think when you actually put it side by side, you have to come to the conclusion, and Mbeumo, with what he gives you, what he's done, his on-the-ball activity, his off-the-ball activity, the goal involvement, you have to say it's a fair valuation. But most importantly for me as a Manchester United fan, I will be the first person to say there are problems at Manchester United that have to be fixed. And I question if Ruben Amorim, it's going to go one of two ways. Either we're going to see miracles. I don't want to take up too much of your time because I know you have limited time. We're going to see miracles in the new season where things drastically turn around, or we're going to see a continuation of what we saw from last season, which was nowhere near good enough. I believe Amorim did make mistakes. Yes, Garnacho was not in the right for wearing an Aston Villa shirt and his petulance, and there's been a culture at Manchester United which has not been good. You get rid of the bad eggs. I'm not against that. However, to give Garnacho only 20 minutes in that Europa League final against Spurs and give Mason Mount 70 minutes, that was a massive mistake. That's criminal. Most Manchester United fans would agree with that. My other grievance with Amorim, even though I want him to do well, I want him to prove me wrong, it's this 3-4-2-1 system. Gentlemen, I just want to point out to you very, very quickly that on the occasions when this system has been used in big, massive games, i.e. when Inter played PSG in the Champions League final, another one that comes to mind is in the Nations League when Germany played Spain, I believe, in one of the lead-ups in that competition before the Germans played the Portuguese. They also played with that system. Well, the Spanish tore them apart. We saw what happened to Inter Milan in that system against PSG. They were torn apart. I've got a massive issue with that system. And one of the main reasons being is simply because in the system where you've seen most success in modern football, it's either been a 4-2-3-1 or it's been a 4-3-3. That's what we're seeing. That's what the trend shows. And Ruben Amorim, he's almost presenting a system that almost goes against the grain. And what it also does, it withdraws the opportunity for wide attackers to be wide attackers. We're asking wing-backs to do the job of two positions. And there's only a handful of these wing-backs in modern football who are capable of doing it to the level where not only are you defensively sound, but going forward, you are a problem and you give defenders problem and you can become an asset. There's only a handful of these guys.
Des, you made a lot of points there and appreciate you coming on and going through it. And I think, it is worth pointing out that only one team has ever won the Premier League by playing the system with three at the back. That was Chelsea. Under Antonio Conte.
And they lucked into that, didn't they?
And he always wanted to do it. They didn't, the players. He let them have their way for the first few weeks. They got their backsides handed to them at Arsenal. He changed it.
Yeah, I remember Victor Moses coming into the fore at that time because he was given an opportunity. I mean, he makes a point, Des, and a lot of the points probably have some great validity in them, but comparing the outcomes against the two elite teams, the Spanish team in the Euros were an elite side, and the PSG side were an elite side, so suggesting that a formation doesn't work. At the end of the day, the players being deployed, the resources that you have, are a key component as the setup. And if the players aren't doing their jobs within the roles that they put in play, then formations almost become academic.
Okay, sad news reaching us this morning that the former Liverpool, Wrexham and Wales defender Joey Jones has passed away at the age of 70. The left-back who won the First Division title, 2 European Cups and the UEFA Cup on Merseyside and earned 72 caps for his country, has passed away this morning. Our thoughts here at talkSPORT, to all of his friends and family and colleagues that played with him, and of course the fans that supported him during his career. Joey Jones, who sadly has passed away at the age of 70 this morning. Next up, we're going to be joined in the studio by Daniel Dubois trainer Don Charles, who's going to be able to confirm whether a party was held at Daniel's house ahead of his defeat to Alexander Usyk on Saturday.
Well, you heard them roar, and now they're back for more. The Lionesses have a chance to make it to their third consecutive major tournament final as they take on Italy tonight at the Euros. And we asked ex-England striker Tash Dowie whether they go into this one as the favourites.
Absolutely they are. I think Italy, out of the 4 teams that are left, are the underdogs, and Girelli was actually interviewed about that and said that that's completely fine, but games aren't won on paper. Games are won on the pitch, and Italy will show a lot of passion. They've got nothing to lose. The pressure is definitely on England going into this game, being the holders.
Not sure England fans will be able to handle another penalty shootout after that nail-biter against Sweden, but just in case, how long have the team been practising penalties for, Serena Wiegman?
You practice hours and hours. Over the last months, you know that when you go into a tournament and you come in a knockout stage that you can go to penalties. So it's something that players train penalties all the time, also at club.
Elsewhere, Brian Mbermo's joined what he calls his dream club, Man United, on a 5-year deal. But is the club really on the rise? Well, there are still doubts about the manager's adaptability.
Amorim dug himself a little bit of a hole by being so persistent to that system, because I think he should have said, listen, I do favour the 3-4-3 system. I've had a lot of success with it. I hope I can make it work at Manchester United, but I need to look at the players that I've got.
All your latest is at talksport.com.
Very good morning to you. It's talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface, and we've got Simon Jordan here, of course, and Don Charles, the trainer of Daniel Dubois, has joined us in the studio this morning as well. Simon was on the show yesterday, revealed on this programme and on Talk Boxing on our YouTube channel yesterday that with less than 90 minutes to go before the first bell sounded, Daniel Dubois had only just arrived at Wembley for his fight with Alexander Usyk. His father and mentor Stan hosted a party at his Essex home on the afternoon of the fight. Daniel did not even know all of the guests well, and at one point left for a drive, or asked to leave for a drive. Their departure from the party was supposedly delayed after Stan requested extra people carriers to bring his entourage to Wembley. And when the pair finally arrived, footage surfaced online of Daniel Dubois' entourage being refused entry by security. Upon hearing the news yesterday on Talk Boxing, Joseph Parker called the situation insane, while Lauren Sokoli was also shocked. Don, what's your reaction to those revelations that have come out in the last 24 hours? What did you know about this, and do you think that the build-up led to the way that Daniel performed in the ring?
Right, let's. Good morning, by the way.
Good morning.
Let's retract. Let's replace the word party with gathering. It was a gathering. Okay.
Okay.
Right. The same gathering we used for the prep on fight day for the AJ fight. A lot was made of the ring walk when Daniel walked out in Wembley, 96,000 people. A lot was made of it.
The Anthony Joshua fight.
Correct, yeah. And the energy that it was fired up.
It was.
That gathering at the home, the same home, was taken to the dressing room. Some of the Daniel's friends and his father's friends were in the dressing room for the AJ for the fight. That energy is what gave birth to the energy that everybody witnessed in the ring walk, and we were victorious on that occasion.
So you tried to replicate it?
Correct. I would. I think you would. Put in the same position. If it worked for you the first time, it's highly likely you're going to replicate that. That's merely. There might have been more people granted for this second gathering. Yeah? Mm-hmm. To get more energy. That would be the only thing. I'm a logical man. The only logical sense that why there was more people is to increase the volume, because it's the big. You're going to the AJ fight was big. This is even trumps it. I didn't think that was possible. Mm-hmm. Yeah. So if you try to understand, that's what I do. Try to understand. It may appear madness to a lot of people, but it's the same method that got us the victory. Stan Dubois, with his extraordinary methods, would try and replicate it. That's my take on it.
And that sounds logical. But did Daniel know everybody that was at that gathering? Did he feed off that energy, or did he turn around and ask to go out for a drive?
I can't sit here and tell you that he knew every single person then. No, he would have known, because he comes from a very large family, cousins and brothers, and so a lot of the people, I know most of those people, they're his people.
Were you there, Don?
No, I was not there.
Right.
Reason being, I spoke with Daniel's father, and it's what I do. It's not like I chose not to go there. Yeah? My duty on the training team, our duty is to make sure, this is Wembley we're talking about here. I can't just as a coach. Yeah. We had to go to the dressing room and make sure everything is intact for the fighter to arrive. Yeah. So there's no confusion. So that was my duty.
So when he gets to I mean, obviously no one wants to use this as an excuse, because the excellence of Alexander Usyk is the excellence of Alexander Usyk. But the narrative that I was putting forward yesterday, and the understanding that I had, was it was very distracting and disorientating for Daniel, and that he wasn't comfortable in that space, and he's going into Wembley Arena, and his father's bringing an entourage with him. And I'm not criticising Stan here, I'm observing on it. His father's bringing an entourage, and the entourage isn't being let in. And then the entourage is being used as a weapon to say, ultimately, Daniel, come back, because if you don't come back and help us get these entourage in, these guys, you ain't fighting. And when you hear that kind of narrative, and then you look at the other side of the equation, Don, how long before the fight against AJ was he in the stadium?
2 hours before.
Right, so slightly different this time round.
Yeah, 90 minutes before. Right. Which you can play a full game of football in 90 minutes.
I know you can, but when I'm talking to fellow elite performers, whether that's Duke McKenzie, who's a 3-time world champion, as you well know, freeweight world champion.
Yeah.
You've got Joseph Parker, former world heavyweight champion of the world. You've got Lawrence Okolie fighting now in the WBC, ranked number 1, and a double weight world champion, both sitting there going, this is not preparation that's conducive with a fighter being entirely comfortable with his surroundings, being focused and zoned in the task that's ahead of him. Any deviation from what fighters have in their preparation, like Anthony Joshua in the first fight against Daniel, not having the preparation that he wanted and then subsequently finding himself in a difficult situation. Are any of these things, that any of what I've just said, have any credence with you?
Well, most definitely. I mean, look, it's something internally we have to look into internally, right? I'm not sitting here and trying to justify. I'm just merely trying to put a narrative that the reasoning behind some of the actions that people are now persecuting.
Is it ideal for you as the trainer? I don't want to put you in an invidious position because you've got relationships to maintain, and I don't want you to be in a situation where it compromises you. But from from an elite trainer point of view, that's engineered a transformation in this boy from somebody that was
not single-handedly.
No, I know, Don, but there's a lot of credit that goes with you.
Yeah,
and I know that a lot of the challenges that Daniel's had and overcome have been overcome as a result of your tutelage. Is this kind of build-up, this kind of environment, the ideal scenario for you to work in and to produce an elite athlete required to beat the best in class?
Right. Without sounding arrogant, if it works for me, which it has been working for me, I don't know why other people have problems with it. The only person who I have to speak to, we have a meeting pending, is our promoter, Frank Warren and George Warren, where we need to reassure them that we're seriously on the job, because they're working hard to present these opportunities. So that's really the only people's opinion that matters to myself and my team. Everybody else is entitled to their own opinion, to their view. The fighters you had in the studio yesterday, it's almost like everyone is waiting for Daniel Dubois. He's not wanted at this the boxing thing where there's an envy, I feel.
No, I don't think that's fair, Dom, because I'm the one that phrased the question to them and they were resistant to giving any answers about an observation of other people's camp. But when you're confronted with an orthodoxy, which is fighters perhaps need to be at a stadium to get their bearings, to get their feet under the table 3 or 4 hours before a fight, and you frame the question that way, and then you see Daniel. Now, I saw Daniel on Thursday at Wembley, and I saw Daniel's disposition, calm, relaxed, more relaxed than I've ever seen him before. No hostility about who he's going to be fighting, sitting, looking out at Wembley Stadium, really together. And I thought, hello. Now, as you know, I wanted Daniel to win. I picked him to win. Right? And my version of analysis was Usyk needs to be 3% off, Daniel needs to have his best night. That's how I pitched it, as being a situation where Daniel could win. But what I saw on Saturday, I have to say I was very disappointed with. From the moment Daniel walked into the ring, I didn't sense the same sort of intensity, the same sort of urgency. Now, whether that's the task in hand was bigger, I can't imagine it's bigger than fighting the nation's favourite, Anthony Joshua, but Anthony Joshua isn't as good a fighter as Alexander Usyk, so it's different from that perspective. And then we see the outcomes. And we see Daniel, I don't think was in the fight. I was disappointed. Everything I had been led to believe by you and the confidence that you were exuding and the game plan that you had, I saw none of it in the ring. And then we see Daniel getting knocked down in the first meaningful exchange, and the person that he's looking towards is not his trainer.
He was?
When you're throwing in the towel, he's looking somewhere else.
At that time, maybe. The first knockdown.
And all of those bring out a concern, because most of us that are British wanted to see Daniel Dubois win.
Correct.
And that's where the narrative comes from. It's not about, I don't think it comes from a position of envy, Don.
No, I'm talking about the incident yesterday. I'm not talking about the public. I'm talking about the incident in the studio yesterday.
So were you comfortable that Daniel arrived at the stadium in the right frame of mind and was ready to take on the challenge? When you saw him, when you sent him out just before the fight started for the ring walk, did you think this guy is in the right shape to go out there and win this fight?
I'm a very honest man. The answer is yes. The young man I saw in the dressing room warmed up. We had more than ample time. It was recorded. A lot of it was recorded, the warm-up. And we cheered him up like you do. And he walked out like you do. And I didn't see anything where, he's not on it tonight. Okay? Going back to what Simon just said regarding, of course, we're terrible. Me, the coach, terrible, and the team disappointed that we weren't able to execute the game plan. In fact, out of 100%, we were operating at 20-25% capacity. And that's not enough.
Why?
That's because it might have something to do with a legendary generational great in front of you.
Yeah.
So I have to credit.
But you knew that before the fight, didn't you?
Oh, most definitely.
Yeah.
And we devised a game plan.
Yeah.
You're a football man.
Yeah.
You can, and you're a football man.
Yeah.
The manager and the coach can coach as much as you want. The players have to get on that pitch and try their best to implement. Then the opposition has something to say about your game plan.
Indeed.
In this case, we didn't even come out of first gear. You could put it down to, I put it down to Alexander Usyk being that much of a genius of a fighter.
Right.
He collected data in the first couple of rounds. Then he came out aggressively, unusually.
Solely?
Yeah.
Solely down to Alexander Usyk?
No, I'm saying he would have a large say in what happened in that fight, in the way he came out aggressively, which he normally doesn't do that, right? So we could all...
But you, John, you're a very wise man, and you knew there was a potential for Alexander to fight in a certain way, which was one of the conventional wisdom was get Daniel on the back foot as quickly as you possibly can. Mm-hmm. So there was a significant ideal that Usyk was going to be aggressive and was going to take the center of the ring.
We knew that, and go and watch it. I challenge anybody, including yourself, Simon. Play the fight. I will walk you through the fight.
Yeah.
They both took centering. In fact, it was Daniel that initiated putting him on his back foot.
He did.
Yeah? So I think it was a 50-50. In Poland, when we fought Usyk, he had us on our back foot 90% of the time. But this time, what we did get right, just getting into the fight, and he got caught. It's a boxing fight. That's what people pay to see. You right? Daniel was trying.
Mm-hmm. Oh,
did we implement the full game? No, we didn't. Like I said earlier on, we're probably operating, if I was to mark it in percentage-wise, we're looking at 20. That's not good enough. We could have maybe increased the percent as the fight went on. The fight concluded in the fifth round.
Because the gap felt wider. I mean, the gap looked, between the two fights, one in Poland, and I watched a particular part of the first round where I assumed that Daniel was going to do something that you had been coaching and executing in his mindset, which is when you got Usyk in the corner in the first round, and I thought he was going to let his hands go.
Correct.
He was going to jump on him, and he didn't.
Correct.
And that, to me, sent an alarm signal straight through my head.
Yeah, correct. So that's where it comes to... Again, I keep regurgitating, going back to the Usyk. You have to acknowledge him. He made that. He knew that he had to get out of whatever is against the rope or the corner.
Get out, yeah.
So he had a lot to do with that.
Yeah.
It's not like Daniel didn't want to hit. He's had to pin him down.
He didn't jump on him, did he?
Well, you got to be careful how you jump on this guy, which is how we ended up losing the fight. He's a southpaw, typical southpaw counter punching. So you got to be mindful. You can't recklessly rush at him. You have to cautiously, which is what Daniel was doing, edging his way in. Before you could get there, he's gone.
I remember speaking to you and Daniel. We've got to go for a break in just a second, but we'll come back to this. I remember speaking to you and Daniel after the first fight, and Daniel's regret is that after getting Usyk under his spell a little bit and had those two low blows called against him, he didn't then let his hands go and take the fight to Usyk. Does he have the same regret this morning about this weekend's fight?
No, I've spoken to Daniel. In fact, that's another thing after the break. I'll touch on it. Okay.
Yep, we'll come back to that in just a second then. All right, we'll do that in just a moment. You're listening to Matterface and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deal at selcobw.com. More from Daniel Dubois-Chainer, Don Charles, who's on the show. Morning, talkSPORT. Daniel Dubois was knocked out in the 5th round by Ukrainian Alexander Usyk in their Wembley showdown on Saturday night. It was the 3rd defeat of his professional career and his second to the undisputed champion of the world. He was also beaten by Joe Joyce during COVID. Usyk also laid claim to Dubois' IBF heavyweight crown at the weekend. Now, on talkSPORT's boxing show yesterday, Talk Boxing, Spencer Oliver was asked whether Daniel Dubois' corner was a mess, as Dave Allen had said during our coverage on Saturday night. This is his response.
Don Charles is the one that should be giving the instructions, and that's what he was trying to do. And Daniel's dad was from the outside shouting in. Now, that's out of Don's hands. So Don is now trying to give these instructions. You've got to calm the fighter down, get him in that moment. Daniel's dad is behind Don, screaming, and Daniel's looking out the ring, looking at him. That's always been the way it is.
Is that a mess? What I'm saying is...
Of course it's a mess.
Dave Allen's saying it's a mess.
It's a
John
complete
Fury
mess.
did the same thing with Tyson Fury.
It's a complete mess.
That was just there on the talkSPORT's boxing YouTube channel. Talk Boxing. Don Charles is in the studio with us this morning, I'm delighted to say. And Don, what do you have to say to Spencer's assertion there that fundamentally the corner was a mess?
You've got to be careful how you use the description of the corner. That's the same mess, if we can use their word, that got us victory against Baby Miller, against Hergovich, against Anthony Joshua. Nobody, I don't remember anybody bringing that up. That it's the same chaotic corner. I've also heard the word being used, okay? But it worked for us, okay? That's not most people's methods. I'm not saying that's the way to do corners, but it's been working for us till this one that went against us. Had we, hypothetically speaking, had we gone and got the victory on Saturday against
no one would be questioning it.
No. Yeah. So I'm not here trying to say to people they're not witnessing what they're witnessing. No. I'm just trying to, again...
give it nuance.
And provide balance.
Yeah.
Okay? So... you're seeing what you're seeing, you're hearing what you're hearing. Yes, it could be deemed as chaotic, but the same chaotic corner, chaos corner, frantic corner got us the previous result.
And you think Daniel benefits from that energy, that chaos? Because Joseph Parker was saying yesterday on Simon's show that one clear voice is required when you're in that moment.
Correct. That is the norm. What's deemed as the norm. Okay? This abnormal corner has got this kid in the last 24 months to win the fights he was never supposed to win and become a world champion in the process. Let's look at that. Let's promote that. Let's celebrate that.
Can that work going forward, though, Don? I know you're going to make the point, and you've made the point, and no one wants to say anything other than Alexander Usyk is an elite fighter.
Yes, we have to recognise that.
But do you think going forward with Daniel, which I think is the best course of action, you should be in his corner, you should be working with him, redeveloping and rebuilding him, that this component part should be part of it going forward? I'm
not that ignorant. We're going to look at it.
Yeah.
And I'm sure our promoter has, Frank Warren and George, would have something to say about it. We haven't had this meeting, by the way. We should have actually had this meeting
Can I ask
before I come here.
Why? I mean, I reacted, and I was, at the time I thought, this is the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world. Why is Don throwing the towel in? Daniel's not looking at him. He's looking somewhere else. Why did you throw the towel in at that time?
Because in that point, you're kind of in all kind of stressed emotion. Yeah? You've seen your guy on the floor. He's got up. I don't want him to fight on.
Because the theory is...
I don't want him to fight. Did you hear what I said? I don't want him to fight on.
Even in a circumstance where it's the undisputed heavyweight championship of the world, everything's there. It's the biggest stage you can possibly be on. Most would expect someone to go out on their shield.
Yeah, it's easy to say that. I know. Okay, let me finish here. Basically, I'm paid to make decisions. Sometimes they're wrong, sometimes they're right. I think I've got most of them right in my career. My initial instincts there was to throw the towel in to save my guy from... And fighters are too brave for their own good in some ways, yeah? I want him to be able to take no more punishment. Did you witness the knockdown? Yeah. There's knockdowns, there's knockout. Yeah. He went face down first.
I saw that.
That's not a good sign.
But I also saw him, Don, get up and walk across the ring.
Correct.
And so he was together.
I'm glad for that.
Is there an element, and it's a pointed question, is there an element of insulating the fighter from the challenges that he experienced as a result of the Joe Joyce fight, where he stopped himself from getting any further punishment. A lot of people criticised him and said that he didn't have the stomach for it.
Yeah.
When they didn't know the knowledge that the orbital bone so
Right, they didn't know the knowledge.
But my point is there an element of that in the back of your mind, thinking, I need to protect my fighter here against the reputational situation where people are going to accuse him of certain things?
Like I said to you, at that time, my instinct was to throw the towel to save him from any further punishment in case he wanted to carry on. I didn't want that. Then going back to what you're saying, you're quite right. Instinctively, that's what would have made me do that.
Right.
Because the actions he took, which people mistranslated to start calling him a quitter, that young man, had he not taken that upon himself to take a knee, there is such a thing in boxing, take a knee.
I was at the fight.
Right.
I was at the fight with Joe Joyce. I saw it.
You saw it, right? So that potentially saved his career.
But he caught a lot of shrapnel, didn't he? And even people, other fighters really went for him.
Yeah, they did.
David Habig, and they all rode back, by the way. But the narrative had been set, hadn't it?
Correct.
That he swallows.
So, which is very disappointing, especially coming from fighters, ex-fighters, current fighters.
Tyson came to his defence on social media yesterday, didn't he? He said the people are jealous of Dubois when saying
I alluded to that earlier on. There is such a thing. I'm not just sitting here being a bitter.
I agree.
I'll hold my hands up. We went into a fight. We prepared the best we can. We got beat by the better man, an exceptional fighter who's done a number on every Brit that's gone in there with him.
And everyone before that. Is there any? I mean, again, the question again, and it has to be asked on. And I know the answer will be pushed back robustly. The argument is he swallowed it again, given the fact he got up. And I've got a feeling that there was more to be had from him. And I don't want to say swallow because I've never laced up gloves, but I ask other fighters that was sat across the table from me, and they don't like to answer these questions this way. But the general perception is, and I looked at it, Daniel gets up on the referee counts him out. He walks across the ring as if he's having an afternoon stroll.
I'm so glad
I asked Joe Parker. I asked Joe Parker. I asked Lawrence Okoli. Lawrence was a little bit more reticent. Joe's perspective was, there's a swallow there.
Okay, please. I know we're time. It so happens those two fighters who were in the studio yesterday are still they're active, they're current heavyweights. Yeah? God willing, he's going to meet those two characters. And let's see who swallows it. Let's see who's quitting. Let's see who's going to swallow and who's going to quit.
So what is next for Daniel Dubois?
I don't know. We haven't had a meeting
Frank
yet.
Warren was saying that he needed to take a break and then he needs to resurrect himself after the defeat. How long is that break going to last, do you think?
It's the same. We've lost fights before. He's lost against Joe Joyce. What the period is. He's a young man, and he's intact. He's been checked out on the night. He was coherent. Everything. He's not concussed. So, like I said, there's a meeting pending where Frank Warren will read us the riot act. He will, and I believe, I'm anticipating that, and him and George. And because they're working hard at their end to present these opportunities, and we have to reassure them that a lot of things will be rectified.
Well, listen, I appreciate you coming in this morning.
I appreciate you having me in here.
Thank you for giving us a little bit of insights to what happened from your perspective on Saturday night. I'm sure there'll be more upcoming on Talk Boxing over the next few weeks as well. Good luck in the future. Give our best to Daniel. That was Don Charles, the trainer of Daniel Dubois after his defeat against Alexander Usyk on Saturday night, which we brought you on Talk Sport. Tonight, we're bringing you the semi-final of the European Championships. The Lionesses in action. We're heading to Switzerland next, while the British and Irish Lions game against the First Nations and Pacifica 15 is getting underway right now on Talk Sport 2.
Well, you heard them roar, and now they're back for more. The Lionesses have a chance to make it to their third consecutive major tournament final as they take on Italy tonight at the Euros. And we asked ex-England striker Tash Dowie whether they go into this one as the favourites.
Absolutely they are. I think Italy, out of the 4 teams that are left, are the underdogs, and Jordan was actually interviewed about that and said that that's completely fine, but games aren't won on paper. Games are won on the pitch, and Italy will show a lot of passion. They've got nothing to lose. The pressure is definitely on England going into this game, being the holders.
Not sure England fans will be able to handle another penalty shootout after that nail-biter against Sweden, but just in case, how long have the team been practising penalties for, Serena Wiegman?
We practice hours and hours. No, we didn't. Now, of course, over the last months, you know that when you go into a tournament and you come in a knockout stage, that you can go to penalties. So it's something that players train penalties all the time, also at club. You just want to be prepared as possible.
Elsewhere, Brian Mbermo's joined what he calls his dream club, Man United, on a 5-year deal. But is the club really on the rise? Well, there are still doubts about the manager's adaptability.
Amorim dug himself a little bit of a hole by being so persistent to that system, because I think he should have said, listen, I do favour the 3-4-3 system. I've had a lot of success with it. I hope I can make it work at Manchester United, but I need to look at the players that I've got. I need to look at the Premier League, and maybe I have to tweak a few things to make sure that I get things going, and that hasn't happened.
And it seems to be 1 in, 1 out at Old Trafford. As we understand, Marcus Rashford has his loan deal in place with Barcelona. But European football expert Kevin Hatchard has told us Rashford was very much the second choice for the Spanish side.
This might not have happened. In fact, I don't think it would have happened if the Nico Williams deal had been completed, because Barcelona wanted to sign Nico Williams from Athletic Club. He's been a target of theirs for a long, long time. But that fell over at the last minute. And so they turned to Marcus Rashford, who's a player who I think they have admired for quite a while.
All your latest is at talkSPORT.com.
It is talkSPORT. Sam Matterface with Simon Jordan. That was great to have Don Charles in the studio this morning, and he was so candid. If you want to react to it, 81089 on the text, you can WhatsApp us 0371722 3344. Over on talkSPORT 2 right now, the Lions match against the First Nations and Pacifica 15 has just got underway. Let's join the action now with the former Lions second row, Ben Kay. But here's your first match commentator, Andrew McKenna.
Line, Farrell feeds it in behind to Finn Smith, and they sweep round with the back three, end up with a break from Blair Kinghorn, and he's got an option either way. He's either got Darcy Graham on his right or Duan van der Merwe on his left, but unfortunately, maybe because it's an oval and Darcy Graham's just coming, the players often struggle to know exactly where the touchline is, and Darcy Graham just steps into touch.
Welcome to talkSPORT listeners joining us on talkSPORT 2 at the moment. We're 2.5 minutes into this game. No score so far. The Lions have just had a good opportunity down their right-hand side. Right winger Darcy Graham, though, just putting in a foot on the whitewash before getting the ball back inside. So the Lions not able to turn that one into points. 3 minutes played. First Nations and Pacifica have kicked the ball out on the far side. It is an enormous playing area at Marvel Stadium. They play cricket and AFL here, and our rectangle pitch fits into it, and there's 30 metres of space either side and about 15 metres at either end behind the posts. So it gives you an idea of just how big an AFL pitch is. Now the Lions are going to put it into the back line and try and fizz it through the hands. It then ricochets away into touch, but there'd already been a knock-on by the First Nations and Pacifica, so the Lions will get a scrub.
As you might expect.
And it continues live on talkSPORT 2 throughout the course of the morning. Download our app, you can flick between the two stations, or you can ask your smart speaker to play talkSPORT 2, and all the Lions coverage over the course of this tour is only on talkSPORT. We've got more live football for you tonight as the Lionesses look to make a second consecutive Euros final. Courtney Sweetman-Kirk has been embedded with the camp in Switzerland throughout the course of the entire tournament so far. Morning, Courtney.
Good morning, both. How are you?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Shall we start by talking about the reaction to Jess Carter's statement over the weekend? The head of Sport England has written to Ofcom, the communications industry regulator, to express its deep concern regarding the recent wave of racist and sexist abuse directed at England's women's football team on social media. What's the feeling like amongst the camp after what's happened this weekend? Are the players fired up? Are they upset for their teammate? How can the situation affect the squad's preparations?
I think it's a bit of both, to be honest. I think there's obviously they're very sad. They're angry, they're upset, obviously, for Jess and what it's done to her. They're a very close-knit camp, so obviously seeing her upset and knowing she's gone through that type of abuse will affect the camp. But also, I think it was Georgia Stanway that said, look, we didn't need it, but you know, it has brought us together. It has made us even more of a bubble, wanting to protect each other and galvanise them going into the Italy game. So, yeah, there's definitely both sides of it where it's brought the side together, but obviously there's a lot of anger, there's a lot of upset, and they're hoping that coming out with the statement both that Jess did, obviously the FA, the Lionesses as a collective as well, that they want to try and enact some positive change.
Boss Serena Wiegmann has been discussing the unity that her players have shown in the face of the adversity.
I think the team came really well together, and we spoke about it, and everyone wants to perform tomorrow too, but also wanted to address this and send a message into the world. So, yeah, I think also that says a lot about the team.
Will Jess Carter play tonight?
It's a difficult one, isn't it? Because it depends what Serena Wiegmann is thinking. You don't want to then be in a position where, you know, if she wasn't to start anyway and then everyone's going, right, well, is she not starting because that was always the plan? Is it because of what's happened? But again, I don't think they're necessarily that bothered about the outside. They will know in camp what is going on, why that decision has been made. And also it will be on Jess as well. I'm be quite confident that she will have spoke to Serena Wiegmann about her, state of mind, and if she feels ready to play, and if she does, then she will be up to selection like she is any other game. But it's one of those where I probably think she will, actually, because look at Serena Wiegmann, she doesn't really change much, so I'd be quite surprised if Jess doesn't start.
And there's also the other issue of Leah Williamson having to come off in the game against Sweden with an injury. She trained yesterday. Serena Wiegmann saying that she will see how she reacts to training last night. How important is it that the captain starts the game against Italy?
Yeah, I think it's huge for the fact that obviously we've already got a big player missing that didn't come to the tournament in Millie Bright. I think the defence, if we're all being honest and watching the games, has been an area that it's been a little bit weak. We've struggled in that back line. So if you lost Leah out of that again, I think it would compound that. And obviously not just as a player, but also as a captain, the leadership that she has on the pitch, you'd want her starting more often than not. So hopefully the case is she went out, she trained. I think she made quite a point actually of running out from sort of their warm-up area onto the pitch and running out to show everyone that the ankle was fine. But where Serena Wiegmann says that it's a case of then working with the physios and the doctors and seeing how she reacted to the training session. It's one thing getting through the training session, but how she's felt this morning is then a different matter.
England have been pretty consistent when they've played Italy. They've won 4 of their last 5 games against Italy. Their most recent meeting, a 5-1 win in February 2024. Where do Italy rank in terms of level of opponent? What sort of game will England expect tonight?
Yeah, it's going to be tough. I think there's some sort of typical Italian traits in terms of being, hard to break down. The way that they set up defensively, it makes them very difficult. But actually, they've got a bit of pace in terms of Caruso. Girelli, the captain up front, is having a fantastic tournament. She's brilliant in the air, which I think can cause us some problems because of the lack of physical presence we've got in that defence at the moment. So I think it's going to be a tough test. I certainly don't think it's going to be a 5-1. I mean, I'd love it to be. I think for everyone watching and everyone playing, in terms of how topsy-turvy some of the games have been, we'd love it to be a really straightforward game, but I don't think that's going to be the case. I think Italy now, they're in a position where they're sort of riding the crest of a wave there. We're enjoying the tournament, and you think only sort of 5 years ago the Italian league was semi-pro, so the sort of strides forward that they've made has been absolutely incredible. And they're not just here in the semi-final to take part. I think there's a real belief in their squad that they can go all the way to the final.
Obviously, a lot of talk about the penalty kicks from Thursday night. I was in the stadium on Thursday night when that happened. Georgia Stanway wasn't on the pitch. If she had been, she would have taken one, and she scored a spot kick earlier in the campaign against Wales. I know you've been speaking to her. I was listening to Michelle Agermang last week as well, suggesting really that they hadn't been not prepared to take the penalty kicks, but they hadn't been practicing them on a regular basis. What is the situation? Have they been talking about approaching it slightly different? Are you concerned that maybe if it goes all the way, there'll be another nervy night for the England supporters?
Well, I hope not, and you're right, Sam. I did speak to Georgia Stanway yesterday, and she said, yes, we've definitely been practicing them in training. So if they hadn't before, I actually didn't hear that quote from Michelle in terms of maybe not practicing them too much in the lead-up, but they're certainly, they have been practicing them this week on the back of the Sweden game, and obviously we've got a fantastic goalkeeper in Hannah Hampton. She's done her job in that sense, so hopefully, obviously, the girls practicing the penalties, whatever the processes have been, they've maybe changed them or just going back to basics a little bit with it, and hopefully, I mean, for my heart rate, I mean, in general, I never want it to go to penalties anyway. As a fan, I think it's the hardest thing to watch. So if it does go there, I'm very sure in the last few days that they've definitely been practicing penalties.
Cheers, Courtney. Thank you very much for coming on.
Speak soon.
That's Courtney Sweetman-Kirk, and she'll be part of the team tonight with Joe Shannon and Tash Dowie commentating. Adrian Durham in the stadium for England against Italy in the Women's European Championship semi-final live on talkSPORT. Let's find out what's happening with the Lions. Alfie Reynolds.
Well, we've played 8.5 minutes here. It's the First Nations and Pacifica 15-0. The British and Irish Lions 7. Jamie Osborne has just touched down following a lovely chip over the defence. The perfect start for the Lions, and they have the man advantage at the moment as well. Tristan Riley for the home side has been yellow carded for a high tackle on Darcy Graham, and that is going to remain a yellow card. It has just been confirmed. So 9 minutes played. Commentary of this game available over on talkSPORT 2. The score at the moment, the First Nations and Pacifica 15-0, the British and Irish Lions 7.
Qatar Airways Lions Tour update on talkSPORT with coverage sponsored by Tenor Men. You're not the only one looking for a solid defence down under. Upgrade your protection. Visit tenormen.co.uk today.
What have you made? I mean, I've watched aspects of the Lionesses, and I obviously spoke to Courtney before the tournament and looked at England's patchy form going into it. And ultimately, a lot of that was washed away by their 7-0 smashing of Jamaica and so on and so forth. But they haven't been great in this tournament. And I wondered what you, because you are more of a student of the women's football than I am, what do you make of their performances in the tournament? I watched the penalty shootout. I was surprised at the level of competence exhibited. I watched Chloe Kelly because I know her agent, and I was interested in how professional she was in taking a penalty. It seemed that the competency level in taking those penalties was very low.
That was poor. It was
Why?
poor. Do you know what? I actually think it's probably down to a little bit of lack of preparation. That's what it looked like to me. And I also think that there was a huge amount of nerves. There's a few younger players in that team. And it was one of those nights, almost a little bit like it sort of cascaded. As soon as one penalty was missed, they all seemed to be going in that direction. It was really strange. But I was also in the stadium on Saturday night when the Germans and the French took the penalties, and they were outstanding penalties all the way through. And they also took 14.
Do you think they're going to win it?
But if you ask me about the England performances, I thought they were poor against France, and they were lucky that they almost got back in that game. They scored a goal which was not a fluke, but it was a little bit fortunate at the end, and it could have turned it around. They were very good against the Dutch, impressive in fact. Wales is a difficult one to measure. They weren't brilliant in that game. They certainly were poor in the match against Sweden, and Sweden are a good team. Sweden finished in the World Cup third place twice in a row now. You know, they're a good competitive team. They've got some really experienced players, and they're a well-drilled unit actually. I do fear for whoever they end up facing in the final, and I do think they'll get to the final. I'll be surprised if they don't get to the final. But if they get Spain, I mean, Spain are a terrific football team, although, I watched them against Switzerland on Friday night, and they were sort of hampered a little bit by the Swiss for 60 minutes. So, look, they've got a chance. They've consistently been getting to the latter stages of tournaments. They're a very well prepared team when it comes to the tournaments. With Serena Wiegmann, she has this idea that she will play the same team all of the time, and always does. She knows when her changes are happening, and she knows that this is a squad game. So, for example, you mentioned Chloe. Chloe doesn't start the matches, but she's arguably one of the best players. She certainly was the most effective player the other night. She came off the bench, changed it in 103 seconds. Yeah. So, look, we'll see what happens. Tonight, it is the semi-final, and good luck to the Lionesses. We're looking forward to it. You're listening to Matterface and Jordan on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. Next, we'll be looking at the Football Governance Act after it finally received royal assent. Well, Coldplay are back to Wembley this summer, and we've got a huge VIP prize up for grabs for one lucky listener. We're giving you the chance to win 6 tickets. Yes, 6 tickets in a private box for you and your mates. August 22nd, full hospitality chucked in, and we're going to give you 10 grand spending money, completely tax-free. Here's how you can enter. 18 plus UK excluding Northern Ireland. For a chance to win, text the word WIN to 83338 by the 4th of August at 11 p.m. and you're in the draw. Text costs £2 plus one standard network message rate. You have to have the bill payer's permission or post your name and your number to Coldplay Competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO2 8GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 7th of August. This is a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. Full terms and conditions apply, and they're available at talksport.com. I know you're very excited about this, Simon. An independent football regulator has been signed into UK law after the Football Governance Act received royal assent. Act introducing a football watchdog for the top 5 tiers of the men's games to ensure clubs are run sustainably and are accountable to their fans. The regulator will also have a backstop power to impose a financial settlement between the EFL and the Premier League if they cannot agree on one themselves. Now, everyone's been pretty positive about this in the fan community. Not sure the Premier League are happy about it. It has been dubbed a watershed moment for English football. Do you believe that'll be the case?
No, I think it's ridiculous.
Why?
Because I think that we've got arguably the most successful pyramid in domestic football in the world, and yet we see fit to introduce an independent regulator because our own governance isn't sufficient enough. And so the rest of the leagues around the world must be looking at the financial success of this remarkable set of circumstances, including the EFL, and looking at it with absolute bemusement at what the English are doing. The budget for it is laughable. If you think you're going to police 72 EFL clubs and 20 Premier League clubs with a budget of £10 million as a regulator, when you look at any of the regulators that exist, whether it be Ofcom, Ofwat, that don't have the same length and breadth of things to investigate or to police, because there's only so many water companies, there's only so many gas companies, and there ain't 92 of them.
I think Ofwat's just been disbanded, isn't it?
Right. And so you look at that and say, if you look at what their budgets are, it's in the hundreds of millions. So the 10 million budget is ridiculous. If indeed that budget is increased, it'll be at the cost of football. The ramifications of it will be mission creep. The ramifications of it, yes, the fans think it's great because they think that ultimately the idea of the tragedies that happen at certain football clubs, like the difficulties at Morecambe, the difficulties at Reading, the difficulties at Derby, the difficulties at football clubs,
Bury going out of business,
and Bury, right, and circumstances like that are going to be counteracted by an independent regulator. I can tell you that no industry that's governed and regulated is a good industry. Particularly, most people look at regulation and over governance as a poor thing. The real value of this is that it's the only lever that can distribute more equitably, possibly, the finances in the football world. I don't feel that it's going to achieve that. We had a Liberal Democrat politician on the other day talking about the idea that there should be a carve out for free-to-air broadcasting. And every single football fan is going to say, absolutely, of course there should be. Well, of course, I'm going to say it too, free-to-air. As long as free-to-air broadcasters pay the commercial value of the package, if they expect to get something different, then all of a sudden what you're going to start do is dismantle the significance of the Premier League, the power of the Premier League, which will then disadvantage English football. It'll stop people being able to spend it. It'll stop people being able to invest in it. We're already shutting the door. We opened this Premier League to business, and we turned it into a global marketplace, which is why our football domestic league is the best in football, which is why we've got the best managers here and arguably the bulk of the best players, not all of them. Now, if you start dismantling that by putting governance over it, by changing the manner in which people operate, you'll turn what was Harrods into Woolworths.
Yeah, but what you're doing, and this is why the Football Supporters Association and many groups around the country are pleased about this, is what you're doing is you're stopping at a certain point the owners being able to do what they want. They can no longer mark their own homework. The regulator's tasked with protecting clubs from reckless owners, giving supporters a bigger voice in the game. But supporters are important in the game, Simon.
Of course they are.
And they need to be able to feel as if there are sort of heritage safeguards.
And never has there been a situation where supporters' voice have been heard more loudly. And the reality of football is that the toothpaste is out of the tube. The governance of football and the finances of football are in a very strange position.
And you're never going to put it back in?
No, you're not.
But you've got to stop it coming out fast as it is at the moment.
Well, that's assuming that so for example, the EFL, I don't believe that the independent regulator would have achieved a different outcome with Mel Morris at Derby County.
Why not? Because the power is to monitor finances in real time, which provides...
And they're doing it already.
the safeguards of incompetency.
That's already happening already.
Incompetency.
So let me again go to the point. But besides the fact that I fundamentally, ideologically, and commercially disagree with the idea that regulation is the way forward, I do accept, of course I accept, that the FA have been a shambles. They were a disgrace. They abdicated responsibility 32 years at the creation of the Premier League, and have never regained any sort of poise over it. I do accept that in an ideal world you'd find better ways to distribute money and make it more equitable. The irony of it is that the clubs that are suffering at the bottom of the pyramid, like say the examples of Morecambe's and clubs that are being strangled, they're not going to be any better by this, because you've still got a situation where the governance inside the EFL is 80% of the revenue goes to the Championship anyway. So you've got the same model being replicated in the EFL as is replicated in the Premier League, which the wealth and the distribution of wealth goes to the clubs that have the most merit in terms of commercial value to broadcasters. I accept, and if you talk to any of the governance behind football, none of them want it. Parry doesn't want it. Trevor Birch doesn't want it. Richard Masters don't want it. They want it because they recognise that it's the one lever that can go to the Premier League and say, if you don't distribute more in what we consider to be more equitably, if you don't deal with the parachute issue, which, by the way, Rick Parry was the intellectual capital behind in the first place, if you don't do these things, then we have this little animal over here with its £10 million budget to manage 92 clubs. It's laughable. It's politics. It's populist thinking, like the idea of the free-to-air stuff. It's populist thinking.
Why is the EFL chair, Rick Parry, saying this act will lay the foundations for a transformational change in the way the game is governed?
Because that's what he wants. Because he recognises the fact...
You just said he didn't want it.
Well, no, he doesn't want a regulator to do it. What he wants is it to be able to be achieved itself. Now, he knows that there's no leverage on the Premier League. The Premier League are not going to be turkeys voting for Christmas. Why would they give clubs in the Championship that have got as wealthy owners as they are in the Premier League more money?
Are they going to be forced into doing it now because of this change?
Well, we'll see how much teeth they've got, the independent regulator. We'll see how strong they're going to be, and we'll see the kind of people that are going to be brought into this space.
You want more equity in the way that
I want
distribution to be better.
I'm always been an advocate of better distributions. I've always been an advocate of narrowing the gap between the Championship and the Premier League, at the same time as accepting that by narrowing the gap between the Championship and the Premier League, you're widening the gap between the Championship and League One. So someone somewhere is always going to be unhappy. I accept the principles of the fact that the governance of the game has brought this upon itself. And they've asked for this in some way, respect or another. And we used to sit in the studio listening to people like Christian Purslow coming in saying, we've given lots of money into football. We bankrolled... No, you didn't. You guaranteed a loan that the EFL had during the COVID period. You didn't give them any money. And by the way, the solidarity payments that you kicked down were in exchange for the EPP programme, which is compensation rates on players. So there's always been a trade-off. The parachute payments, if you do not allow parachute payments to be given to football clubs, then how are these football clubs ever going to compete in the Premier League? How are they going to ever be prepared to spend to be able to stay there? And around you go. It is wrong, and people are going to see it in 2 or 3 years' time when they realise the ruins that are beginning to happen inside the game, the unbridled success that has been English football. It is a remarkable, roaring success, and I understand that certain fans think it could be better, right? And the same fans that want the best things for their football clubs, that believe that football clubs are part of the community. I too believe that.
I sat down with the independent regulator and the guys were putting it together, and why I raised your concern, I said to them, the problem here is that we have the most successful, most commercially viable league in the entire world. You cannot put in regulation that is going to thwart that. And they said, when we go into our debates and discussions every day, we know we cannot disrupt the golden goose. So they don't believe that is going to happen.
Sure, but in order to achieve what people believe they need to achieve, they're going to have some of that, some of the propensity to do that. And also, again, I'll go back to the budget. You cannot do this from an independent regulator point of view with 10 million quid. You cannot do it with the calibre of people that are going to be available within the confines of those budgets. And you cannot do it by over-regulating an industry which is a globalised industry, which is a roaring success with a few challenges along the way. It's stupid. It's low-resolution thinking, and it's politicians jumping on the back of populism without understanding the principles of what they're getting involved.
That wouldn't happen.
Politicians sit in the studio. I've listened to them. I remember listening to the head of the DCMS turn around and say,
this is a politician.
Football doesn't need any money, because ultimately, look at the transfer fees during COVID. That's because you're looking at 20 clubs in the Premier League. You have no understanding of what you're talking about. You're just jumping on a particular opportunity. Fans believe emphatically that they own football clubs, and they do emotionally. They don't financially.
Okay, I'm sure we'll get into a lot more discussion about that. Talking of challenges, the Lions have got a couple of those. We'll get down there very shortly.
Well, you heard them roar, and now they're back for more. The Lionesses have a chance to make it to their third consecutive major tournament final as they take on Italy tonight at the Euros. And we asked ex-England striker Tash Dowie whether they go into this one as the favourites.
Absolutely they are. I think Italy, out of the 4 teams that are left, are the underdogs, and Girelli was actually interviewed about that and said that that's completely fine, but games aren't won on paper. Games are won on the pitch, and Italy will show a lot of passion. They've got nothing to lose. The pressure is definitely on England going into this game, being the holders.
Not sure England fans will be able to handle another penalty shootout after that nail-biter against Sweden, but just in case, how long have the team been practising penalties for, Serena Wiegman?
You practice hours and hours. Over the last months, you know that when you go into a tournament and you come in a knockout stage that you can go to penalties. So it's something that players train penalties all the time, also at club.
Elsewhere, Brian Mbermo's joined what he calls his dream club, Man United, on a 5-year deal. But is the club really on the rise? Well, there are still doubts about the manager's adaptability.
Amorim dug himself a little bit of a hole by being so persistent to that system, because I think he should have said, listen, I do favour the 3-4-3 system. I've had a lot of success with it. I hope I can make it work at Manchester United, but I need to look at the players that I've got.
All your latest is at talkSPORT.com.
I mentioned the Lions were having a few challenges down under, so let's get the details of that. Alfie Reynolds.
Well, we've played 27 minutes here, Sam. It's the First Nations and Pacifica 15-14, the British and Irish Lions 14. Jamie Osborne and Darcy Graham, the try scorers for the Lions. Their early lead wiped out, though. Tristan Riley and Seru Uru crossing for the home side. Also, gutting news in this first half. Darcy Graham limped off, injured, visibly emotional. Really not a good moment at all. James Ryan is currently in the sin bin for the Lions, and they're also checking something else with an incident between Seru Uru and Henry Pollock as well. So 27 minutes played. Commentary of this game available over on talkSPORT 2. It's currently 14-all.
Qatar Airways Lions Tour update on talkSPORT with coverage sponsored by Tenor Men. You're not the only one looking for a solid defence down under. Upgrade your protection. Visit tenormen.co.uk today.
It's talkSPORT, Sam Matterface with Sam and Jordan today through till 1 o'clock.
Blimey.
Well, you want to get involved in that, do you?
No, I'm just watching the physicality. I'm watching the physicality of it, and I'm watching footballers that fall over when they get pushed in the face, and I'm watching Henry Pollock getting mauled.
I think I would step away from that invitation. That's for sure. Time now to catch up with the latest odds. Here's BetMGM.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+gambleaware.org.
I am delighted to say that we're joined by Matt Gibson again from BetMGM to look at today's top sporting events and discuss the latest odds. Matt, we've got Alex Crook coming up on the show shortly. So what's the latest transfer news? Come on, what have you got for us?
Yeah, morning, fellas. A couple of points I'd like your take on, lads, if you wouldn't mind. Firstly, a couple of stars from the England Under-21 campaign, Harvey Elliott and James McAtee. We mentioned Harvey Elliott a few weeks ago. He was really short to get at Brighton. That interest seems to have cooled, particularly in the betting. 4-5 to get at West Ham, 2-1 stay at Liverpool. Will he get the minutes that he probably needs with Aaron Cummings? Arguably not. 9-2 to get at Villa. And then McAtee, 4-5 to get at Forest. Maybe relies on the Gibbs-White move. But Frankfurt and Dortmund also in for him at 3-1 and 6-1. Quite a few young English players are sort of making that move over to Germany at key points in their career. And Sam, while I've got to talk about Chelsea, mate. It's a bit of a revolving door down there at the moment.
Sorry, Matt. If you're going to address them properly. Chelsea, the world champions. Yeah, go on.
Chelsea, the best team in the world, and all of that. Yeah. There's a lot been made of all the signings, and there is a long list. Most notably, João Pedro, I think will be superb for you this season, mate. But you are selling as well. Madueke, Petrovic gone, and then plenty of rumours of people leaving. Dizazi, Badiashile, Sterling, Felix, Broja, and Kunku will he go? Dewsbury Hall, Nicholas Jackson, third striker. There's a lot of turnover, mate. And I wonder.
It's been a lot of turnover in each of the last 3 or 4 years that the new owners have been in play. But look, they've done what they have set out to do. They've made profit on Madueke, which is, something that I don't think that they would have expected. They obviously expected that we all didn't expect. I thought his numbers were pretty good last year. I think it's a good acquisition for Arsenal. There's a lot of those players that you listed that might be leaving. I mean, they're players that haven't really cut it. They're players that clearly Chelsea don't want. So yeah, I can understand exactly why they're trying to cash in on them. And they've been good sellers so far. So look, good luck to them. I think they've done a reasonable job on that, and they're starting to find their feet. It feels like they're starting to find their feet. I hope it continues the way it is at the moment. Be interesting to see what that means for their title odds for next season and whereabouts they'll be. I still think they'll be. Well, I think if they finish fourth next season, they've done a good job. What are the odds saying?
I think we covered it quite a while ago. I think they were shortening all the time to come into the top four, but I don't know, Sam. Is top four enough when you're spending this much? Like, are you? I think one of the lads said something about potentially not. The fans aren't that pleased with the goalkeeper, even though he had a superb final. Are you a good goalkeeper off and a centre back off? Actually, top two, top one, and actually challenging for the title, champions of the world, and all that. Sam, let's shoot for the moon, mate.
I've never been convinced on the goalkeeper situation, but I don't think they are going to change that. I think they're pretty strident that they believe that he's good enough for them. So the two sporting directors are standing by that decision. Simon is big mates with Todd Bowley. They regularly go out together and have a little special lunches, don't you? Do you think they expect to win the league next season?
Do I think they expect to win the league? I think they expect to be competitive and to be at the very top of the league. I've always been a believer in the project. I don't think that some of the things they've done have been the wisest. I think some of the way that they've allowed themselves to be portrayed through the media as American owners don't know what they're talking about and spending cash as if it's going out of fashion and changing the orthodoxy by putting players on 8-year contracts and selling hotels and whatever else they've needed to do. I've always maintained that eventually, sooner rather than later, Chelsea will be successful. So it's no surprise to me that Chelsea finished in the top four last year because I forecast it. It's no surprise to me they won the European Conference League because so they should. And the ultimate surprise was the fact they managed to deal with PSG in the manner they managed to deal with PSG.
They were brilliant.
I said, much to the great amusement of most supposed educated observers, that I thought Chelsea would win the league within 3 years. I said that a year ago. So that was ridiculed and vilified, and people, I think, even such luminaries as Tim Sherwood were giving their two penneth on it, and it looks less remote now. But the thing about the Chelsea situation is they don't operate in isolation. They're not in a vacuum. They have very good sides that they're competing against. Liverpool are doing the classic thing that United did, which was strengthen when they're on top. Arsenal are getting better. And, irrespective of the idea that he gets to trot out this tripe, that they're threadbare and that their squad is thin, Arteta's side will get better. So I think it's a very tall order for Chelsea to win the league, but I think they're going to be I see them winning things next year.
Also, they've got the situation where they're playing the Champions League next year, and they didn't have European commitment of that kind last year because they could afford to rest all of their main players during the Conference League campaign. I think if they finish fourth, that's another solid move towards the goal.
I think they'll finish on the top four.
Yeah, okay, we're all agreed. Rangers are in action tonight. They want to be in the Champions League going forward, but they've got a few rounds to go through in order to get there, a few hoops to jump, including Panathinaikos. New boss Russell Martin says it's not a season-defining encounter, but are they favourites or second favourites when they take on Athens' Green Army?
Yeah, they are favourites, 10-13 for the home win, 13-5 the draw, 33-10 for the away team to go to Ibrox and win. Sean Martin, a Celtic fan, was very keen to point out that Panathinaikos play in green and they have a clover on their badge, so he is very much behind Panathinaikos to this evening. I think it'll be an interesting one with with Russell Martin. There was a lot talked about his style with Southampton being a bit suicidal. He's probably had 3-4 weeks with his Rangers side. How much has he been able to do in that? I think there is pressure on it. I think they're looking to get into the Champions League groups for the second time in the last 13 years. Club of Rangers sides. I think there probably is a wee bit more pressure than Martin makes out. It'll be a really interesting one, particularly for the neutral, to see how it plays out.
And what about the Lionesses tonight? They take on Italy in the Women's Euros semi-final. They'll be massive favourites live on talkSPORT.
Yeah, they are, and Sam, you'll know way more about this. You've seen them in the flesh, and I'm just watching on TV. But after a tricky start against France, they've been really decent. They put the Dutch and the Welsh to the sword, and then proved they could win ugly against Sweden when needed. 13-25, big favourites tonight. 16-5 the draw, and 5-1 for Italy to win. That's in 90 minutes, by the way, not just to qualify. We're as short as 1-4 to qualify. If you're looking forward to the final on Sunday, England are 11-4 to win this. Most likely they'll play Spain, 11-20 favourites, which if they get there, they'll have a right job on their hands getting past the Spanish. Again, from what I've seen, they look brilliant.
They do, but like the Germans, I tell you, they dug in on Saturday night and they got over the line. They had only 10 players for well over an hour and a half. So, well, let's see what happens. Thank you very much, Matt. Appreciate that. Thank you for joining us. That was a look at the latest odds, all thanks to BetMGM. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+. BeGambleAware.org.
It's showtime on talkSPORT with BetMGM. Get ready for the golden era of sports betting. Visit betmgm.co.uk or download the app. 18+, gambleaware.org.
It's talkSPORT. It's Sam Matterface and Simon Jordan. We're live with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's real deals at selcobw.com. Next, we'll be speaking to our chief football correspondent, Alex Crook, on the latest transfer news. It's talkSPORT. Good morning to you. This is Sam Matterface, and we've got Simon Jordan in the studio, and I'm hoping that he's got off his inflatable dragon to join us live from his holiday. Alex Crooker, chief football correspondent. Hello.
Hello, literally fresh off the dragon. How are we doing?
You look fresh off the dragon as well. How big is the inflatable dragon, by the way?
It's substantial.
It probably
do you remember
need to
the
be.
famous Bukayo Saka unicorn from the World Cup in Qatar?
Yeah.
Similar size to that.
Okay.
I'm a little bit bigger than Bukayo Saka. Only a few extra.
Well, you're a giant. You're 6'5".
It takes my weight. Simon will be pleased to know.
Some of the information he gets is about riding the dragon is chasing the dragon.
Right, quickly, let's move on. Matteo Retegui, the top scorer in Italy's Serie A last season. Where is he going? The Pro League in Saudi Arabia. What's this about?
Yeah, this is a big deal for the Saudi Pro League, not least because it's not one of the PIF-owned clubs, not one of those backed by the private investments fund. He's going to one of the smaller clubs, 65 million euros the fee. I think the fact a non-PIF club are able to attract a full Italian international is seen as a big statement signing. Overall, though, it's been a pretty quiet Saudi transfer window so far. They've obviously made plays for the likes of Bruno Fernandes, and that was pretty close, I think, until Mrs. Fernandes intervened. But we're still waiting for that headline-grabbing move from the Premier League. They've got targets, people like Luis Diaz, I think, is on their list. Alexander Isak, there's been chatter about him this week, although I still think Newcastle are determined to keep him at St James's Park. So the Saudi window was only supposed to open on the 20th of July. They did end up opening it a little bit earlier, but that caught a few clubs by surprise. So I think there's still business to be done over in Saudi Arabia.
Are you surprised about the level of spending in Saudi Arabia again, the way they've sort of conducted themselves? The way
I'm neither surprised or engaged either which way. I look at it sometimes and it was being used as a stalking horse. And I'm curious to see things like Duran leaving Villa and going to Saudi and then been there for 5 minutes and he's out the door again. Jordan Henderson was another example of that. Steven Gerrard's managerial career didn't take fire or create many opportunities over there. I think like everything, the Saudis have a part to play in world football. I don't like the destabilisation of it in terms of the preparedness to pay ridiculous amounts of money that creates another pressure on domestic leagues around Europe, and then people talk about independent regulators coming in and diminishing our leagues by the very nature of their regulation. And you've got the Saudi league wanting to spend more money, and all of a sudden we'll become a selling league. And if we become a selling league, then our product will diminish. But no, I watch Saudi with a degree of interest because I'm interested in the way that they embrace sport and what they're doing with it. But I don't look at it and go, well, look, it's a wonderful thing that players are transferring over there, clubs are being developed. So I have mixed emotions about it. The same as when China came to play and everyone was using China as a stalking horse to drive prices up.
5 big questions for you. We'll rattle through them over the course of the next 5 minutes. How close is Hugo Ekitike to being confirmed as a Liverpool player?
Pretty close. There's been images on social media of him touching down in Liverpool, ready to undergo his medical. We reported yesterday £69 million fee up front, £10 million more in add-ons. The long-term contract had already been agreed, and this is going to take Liverpool's spending with all the add-ons on various deals taken into account to nearly £300 million. I'm not convinced they're finished there either. There's still a bit of interest in Luis Diaz. I think if he is sold, they would look to bring in a left-sided player like Anthony Gordon and Rodrigo amongst players they admire, and maybe another centre-back as well, because in the background you've still got the situation with Ibrahim Konate where contract talks seem to have stalled. That means he would be a free agent at the end of the season. I think Liverpool keen to avoid a repeat of the Trent Alexander-Arnold situation.
Did I hear right this morning that Granit Xhaka's prospective move to Sunderland has taken an extra step because he said he only wants to go to Sunderland?
Yeah. Absolutely, he's told by Leverkusen that's his intention. I think this would be a real statement signing from Sunderland. I know we did a big piece on the All Access podcast yesterday assessing the 3 teams that have come up, and we all had to put our neck on the block and say which team's got the best chance of survival. I went for Sunderland because I liked some of their signings, and I think this would be a brilliant addition. Their experience, not just in the Premier League, but in Europe, Granit Xhaka. And he's been on a real redemption arc, hasn't he, since he was booed off by the Arsenal fans, stripped of the captaincy. He won back their hearts, and he's certainly done very well at Bayer Leverkusen.
Yeah, if you want to listen to, by the way, to the Premier League All Access podcast, where Dean Ashton and I also give you our assessments on who we think will stay up in the Premier League next season, then you can download that from the talkSPORT app or get it wherever you get your podcasts. And talking of which, Leeds have signed another giant.
They have. Anton Stack, aptly named because he is stacked. He's over 6 foot tall. £17 million from Hoffenheim over in Germany. He is a midfielder. He's their 6th signing of the window. 5 of them are over 6 foot tall. And again, Dean Ashton was making the point about Daniel Farke's Norwich team that struggled in the Premier League. He felt they lacked physicality. So maybe Farke's learned from that lesson, and he's certainly trying to address that with this Leeds squad.
Yeah, don't give away everything from the Premier League All Access podcast, Crookie. Let's get people to download it instead. Let's go off to the First Nations and Pacifica 15 against the British and Irish Lions, because it is half-time, and here's Alfie Reynolds.
Yeah, half-time here in Melbourne, and it's the First Nations and Pacifica 15-14, the British and Irish Lions 14. Most the Lions have been tested on a tour game here in Australia so far. They raced into a 14-0 lead, Osborne and Graham scoring their tries, but the response for the home side came quickly. Tristan Riley and Seru Uru means that we are level at 14 apiece. Darcy Graham also guttingly for the Lions in that first half, went off injured, visibly emotional. Not a nice moment for him. So questions being asked of Andy Farrell's team. Will they respond? You can listen to second half commentary over on talkSPORT 2. The half-time score is the First Nations and Pacifica 15-14, the British and Irish Lions 14.
Qatar Airways Lions Tour update on talkSPORT with coverage sponsored by Tenor Man. Don't let drips and dribbles get in the way of the life you lead or the sport you love. Find out more at tenorman.co.uk.
Talk Sports, let's get back to Alex Crook, who's managed to resist the temptation not to jump straight back into the pool whilst we went off to find out what's happening with the Lions. Look, West Ham haven't had much in terms of investment this summer, but are they on the verge of signing a new goalkeeper?
Potentially. A lot of interest in Mads Hermansen at Leicester. I reported yesterday that Leicester are braced for an offer from West Ham. I think he's made it pretty clear he wants to leave, wants to get back in the Premier League. I think financially they're under pressure to sell Leicester because we know they've got PSR issues. There's a possibility of a points deduction coming their way from the Football League, and they haven't got too many sellable assets. So it's just the goalkeeper is probably the one who's going to fetch the most. There's a new goalkeeping coach in West Ham, Kasper Ankergren, and he coached Hermansen at Brøndby over in Denmark. So that's the connection. And there is talk this morning as well about a potential striker arrival. I've been speaking about this connection probably for 3 or 4 windows. Callum Wilson, free agent, having left Newcastle. His representative, Will Salthouse, has a record of taking players to West Ham. He's really close to the Sullivan family. And I'm told that is a distinct possibility that Callum Wilson ends up at West Ham because they are short of firepower, aren't they? They've got Nicholas Fulkrug, who obviously endured an injury-hit season last year. Mikael Antonio has left the club. I know Bowen can play as a striker, but I think he's better coming in from the wide areas. The big question with Callum Wilson is, can he stay fit?
Well, I used to love a goal against West Ham United. Maybe he'll love a goal for West Ham United. They need to do some business, don't they, West Ham?
I would have thought so. I mean, he needs some support. I mean, obviously, one of the things that David Moyes suffered from was the idea that he wouldn't play in a certain way, and they bought certain players like Kudus to be able to give them that opportunity, and yet he still didn't play a game that was offensive. Now they're selling these players, and Potter hasn't captured the imagination of the West Ham fans at this moment in time, so I think he needs to supplement the playing squad, and goalkeepers aren't really the most exciting signing for fans, are they? I mean, we all need a goalkeeper, and goalkeepers are valuable, and I always think goalkeepers are much undermined. I think Peter Shilton signing for Nottingham Forest was the reason why Nottingham Forest kicked on the way they did, alongside a variety of other players. But I'll be fascinated to see how Potter goes at West Ham, because I have mixed emotions about him.
Very quickly, Chelsea have set a price tag for Nicholas Jackson. Were Manchester United ever interested? Are they interested in Nicholas Jackson?
I don't think he's top of their list of priorities. They do want a number 9, but I don't necessarily see it's going to be an expensive deal at the moment unless they can sell Rasmus Højlund, which would appear unlikely. There has been some talk today that maybe Juventus are interested in him, but United would have to take a massive hit on the 72 million fee they splashed out. I think Chelsea have looked at Ekitike and what Liverpool are paying for him. They see Nicholas Jackson as more experienced in the Premier League. I think they would want a similar fee. So you're talking in excess of £70 million. I struggle at the moment to see too many clubs willing to pay that for a player who I think is still hit and miss when it comes to goal scoring in the Premier League.
Okay, thank you very much. Enjoy yourself. Try and keep afloat for the rest of the day. And we'll speak to you tomorrow, I would have thought.
Off on a boat trip.
Definitely try and keep afloat then. We'll see you later. That's Alex Crook, our Chief Football Correspondent, bringing us up to date with the latest transfer news.
Well, you heard them roar, and now they're back for more. The Lionesses have a chance to make it to their third consecutive major tournament final as they take on Italy tonight at the Euros. And we asked ex-England striker Tash Dowie whether they go into this one as the favourites.
Absolutely they are. I think Italy, out of the 4 teams that are left, are the underdogs, and Jordan was actually interviewed about that and said that that's completely fine, but games aren't won on paper. Games are won on the pitch, and Italy will show a lot of passion. They've got nothing to lose. The pressure is definitely on England going into this game, being the holders.
Not sure England fans will be able to handle another penalty shootout after that nail-biter against Sweden, but just in case, how long have the team been practising penalties for, Serena Wiegman?
We practice hours and hours. No, we didn't. No, of course, over the last months, you know that when you go into a tournament and you come in a knockout stage that you can go to penalties. So it's something that players train penalties all the time, also at club. You just want to be prepared as possible.
Elsewhere, Brian Mbermo's joined what he calls his dream club, Man United, on a 5-year deal. But is the club really on the rise? Well, there are still doubts about the manager's adaptability.
Amorim dug himself a little bit of a hole by being so persistent to that system, because I think he should have said, listen, I do favour the 3-4-3 system. I've had a lot of success with it. I hope I can make it work at Manchester United, but I need to look at the players that I've got. I need to look at the Premier League, and maybe I have to tweak a few things to make sure that I get things going, and that hasn't happened.
And it seems to be 1 in, 1 out at Old Trafford. As we understand, Marcus Rashford has his loan deal in place with Barcelona. But European football expert Kevin Hatchard has told us Rashford was very much the second choice for the Spanish side.
This might not have happened. In fact, I don't think it would have happened if the Nico Williams deal had been completed, because Barcelona wanted to sign Nico Williams from Athletic Club. He's been a target of theirs for a long, long time. But that fell over at the last minute. And so they turned to Marcus Rashford, who's a player who I think they have admired for quite a while.
All your latest is at talkSPORT.com.
talkSPORT, it's Sam Matterface and Simon Jordan. We're here right the way through till, 1 o'clock. It's midday now, so it's afternoon. So very good afternoon to you, wherever you are. If you're watching it on YouTube this morning, thank you very much for lending us your eyeballs. If you're listening in your car up and down the country or got it on in your kitchen, thank you very much for listening to talkSPORT. Earlier on today, we had Daniel Dubois' trainer, Don Charles, in the studio, and he qualified the situation around the apparent party at Daniel's house ahead of his loss against Alexander Usyk.
Let's retract. Let's replace the word party with gathering. It was a gathering. Okay?
Okay.
Right. The same gathering we used for the prep on fight day for the AJ fight. Some of the Daniel's friends and his father's friends were in the dressing room for the AJ dress for the fight. That energy is what gave birth to the energy that everybody witnessed in the ring walk, and we were victorious on that occasion.
Okay, and the beauty of working in this building and working with Simon is he's so well connected that everyone wants to talk to him. So what happens is that today we got Don Charles in to explain what happened on Saturday night, and then just randomly Derek Chisora turns up and says he wants to have his say as well. Morning, Derek. Or afternoon, Derek.
Morning, how are you?
Oh, good, thank you. Now, you and I bumped into each other outside, and what did you say to me?
No, go away.
So what did you think of the fight?
Listen, I kept on saying the stage was set for Daniel to win the fight. You know, he arrived late. For some reason, we don't know why. Alexander was there from 6 o'clock. Everyone was not connecting. You know, even I watched him and I re-watched some of the videos on Instagram when he was warming up with Don.
Yep.
You know, you could feel the attention in there. There was no music in there.
No intensity.
Yeah, there was no. It was just it was not right. Do you understand?
Yeah.
And then when he walked to the ring, about 25, 35 people walked with him. But last time when he boxed AJ, he only had about himself, and his dad, and Don. You know, so it was not meant to be his night, but it was meant to be for him, because Frank Warren made this for him.
Yep.
You know.
Yep.
But would he bounce back? I believe so.
What do you make all the noise, though? I mean, we had Don in this morning, and I know you think I went a little easy on him, but I don't think I did. The background noise, and I know you've posted some stuff on Instagram, is this entourage that his father had at the house, that Daniel wasn't part of it, didn't know people there, was delayed getting to the fight. As a result of getting to the fight, the entourage wanted to get in. Daniel's father was potentially saying, if he don't come in, he doesn't fight. And I put all that to Joe Parker yesterday, and I put it all to Lawrence Okoli and to Duke McKenzie, and all of them going, that can't be right. That's not the preparation that an elite fighter needs for an elite fight. What do you make of all that?
Listen, I believe you do what makes you happy. You know, his dad thought maybe having all these people around his son will help him to achieve the achievement which he did with AJ. You understand? So maybe say, you know what? Instead of having 10 people, we're going to have 25 people this time. This might help him. You never know. But it did not help him. You know, I hear what Joseph Parker's saying, because nobody wants to be his friend. That's why.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. And Lawrence Okoli lives in Dubai, so they can't really say much. You know, understand?
Right.
Daniel lives here. He wants to have a big entourage. He can have an
Nobody
entourage.
wants to be Joe Parker's friend. Is that what you just said?
Why does nobody want to be Joe Parker's
Yeah,
friend?
he's from Australia.
He's from New Zealand.
No, he's Australian. You understand? So it's one of those things. Listen, Wembley paid money to come and watch Daniel win. Yeah? And he did not win.
Yeah.
Now Frank Warren has to figure out how he's going to rebuild him.
Yeah.
That's the simplest thing ever.
Were you disappointed in Daniel? I was disappointed in the fight. And not because I don't admire Usyk, because people are misunderstanding my views. I think Usyk is a fabulous fighter. And if you fought him, I'd want you to win, because you're British. If Daniel Dubois fights him, I want him to win. But I will always say you need to have your very best day, and that fighter needs to have a little bit off in terms of Usyk. But I was disappointed in Daniel. I was disappointed. I thought there was going to be more. I thought there was going to be more intensity from him. I thought that there was going to be less of a gap than there was between the two fights in terms of his first fight against him in Poland. Were you disappointed? Did you feel a little bit shortchanged by the outcome? Because the scene was set, Derek, wasn't it?
It was set. You know, this is why I say a couple of my interviews, like, Daniel's team trained for the last fight by the body shot. They kept on bringing it up in the press conference. They were just bringing it up. Yeah. But Alexander trained to knock him out.
Indeed.
Yeah. And when Daniel, first two shots in the fight, hit Daniel on the chin. And then that's when Daniel just quit. He could not gather himself. He didn't throw the double jab.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't actually say, you know what?
He didn't step into it.
He didn't bite his gumshoe and say, you know what? I'm just going to go for it.
Yeah.
When you say the first two shots in the fight, they went to the chin, then he quit, what do you mean by that?
I mean, like, he just folded, he just quit. I mean, like, in a way, not quit like walking out the ring. Quit off like, you know what? I'm just going to try and survive. You understand? He didn't actually bite his gumshoe and just go for the fight. You know?
Yeah, I mean, I said that to Don this morning. I said, and Don will obviously refute that and dispute that, but I said there was a key point in the first round, and you as a fighter will be able to perhaps clarify it better than I can, where he gets Usyk in the corner, and you would expect Daniel Dubois, because that's where you want Usyk.
Yeah, because I saw that.
Get involved and land on him, or take a risk and let your hands go, and he didn't, and I thought that was a telling point about Daniel's psychological approach.
Yeah, because I saw that. Because Usyk never goes in the corner.
Indeed.
Yeah, and then when I saw Daniel put him in the corner and let him out, I was like,
what's going on here?
I was like, oh, he's done. He just quit.
You were in the dressing room after the fight with Alexander Usyk.
Yes.
He is a friend of yours.
Yes, he's a friend of mine. And I would love to be friends with Daniel, but people don't let me be friends with him.
People don't let you be friends with him?
Like,
why?
I don't know. Around
Who
this,
doesn't let you be friends
around
with
this team.
All right.
Well, they won't let you in?
They won't say no names anyway.
Would you fight him?
Huh?
Would you fight Daniel?
Listen, I'm a warrior. I'll fight anybody. You know, people mistaken this. We are in the business of fighting. Yeah, we're in the business of entertainment. Yeah? If I have to fight Daniel, I'll fight Daniel. If I have to fight my brother AJ, I'll fight AJ. Do you understand? We're into entertainment business. I'm not in the. It's entertainment.
The hurt business as well, though, as well.
Huh?
It's the hurt business.
Yeah, it is what it is. Tyson has hurt me so many times, but I'm still pally with Tyson. He's still my boy. He didn't hurt your bank balance, though, did he? No, it don't matter. Forget the bank balance about that. But it don't really matter. Yeah, be quiet, you. Yeah. So it's one of those things. I'm friends with all the fighters, but I want to be friends with Daniel.
What did you think of the Don Charles interview earlier on?
I listen. That's Don. I love Don. But right now, me and him, we're toughing right now. We're having a go at each other right now.
Why is that?
Because he says something rude to me in the ring, and I take that very offensive, because the guy needs to understand he's in that ring because of me. Yeah, that's what he has to understand.
He used to be your trainer?
He used to be my trainer. When I met Don, he was he owned a flower shop. Yeah. And we met in the petrol station. Mm-hmm. Yeah, and he goes, I train. I'm like, what? I'm like, you know what? A black man, I'm going to train with him. And we used to train in the gym where we used to be dump. Yeah, no water, nothing. Yeah. And then and what he said to me in the ring actually annoyed me.
Yeah, but that's the height of emotion. He might say, Derek, that you didn't pay him.
You're damn right I didn't pay him.
Well, there you
You're
are.
damn right I didn't pay him.
He might have an alternative
I don't pay nobody. That's what you didn't understand. I don't pay nobody.
He might have an alternative view on the opportunity.
But I love Don, but I'm just upset with him right now.
Okay. Turkey Al Sheikh tweeted after the fight that he wants Usyk to face Moses Atoma next. Would that be a good fight?
Turkey Al Sheikh, he needs to understand the rules of boxing. There's people
he makes them.
No.
He's making them now, Derek.
Yeah,
listen, you lot are dancing to his tune.
And but listen, I'm not dancing to his tune, bro. Let's be honest about that. I'm not dancing to his tune. Do you understand? He needs to understand there's rules to this boxing. Yes, you want to pay for it, but there's people in line who are waiting for these belts.
But isn't he one of the very few people that's clarifying that? Because how many times have people sat on the outside? Dillian White was a mandatory challenger for 3 years, and it didn't happen. So isn't Turkey actually, with due respect to him,
but for him to tweet that out means that he was trying to bump everybody else who's been waiting for their line now to fight for the world title.
Well, who's in line?
Myself, Joseph Parker, and for the Ajay Cabell. Yeah. Do you understand? We all want to fight for the title.
Who goes first?
That is up to the federation of
WBO, isn't it?
WBO now, because they just finished doing the IBF.
Which is Joe, isn't it?
Yeah. But there's no money in that fight with Joe. Usyk can announce to fight Joe in the Copper box, and it will not sell. And plus, before I forget, Conor Benn could not sell out the Copper box last week for an event. So they had to get Tyson Fury to come and sell it out.
Conor. Yeah, we got Conor now, right?
Is there anybody else you want to eviscerate?
I'm on smoke, and he's going to hear this. Connor's going to be upset.
He'll be the next one in.
Conor won't come in here when I'm here.
We'll be trying to escape at 12 o'clock.
Connor's my brother. You know what? You need to make peace with Conor.
I'm fine with Conor, and I'm fine with his dad. Yeah. But people aren't beyond criticism,
No. You make peace. He's learned his lesson. That's it.
Conor, pack it in you. When Conor was having troubles, he asked to have lunch with me, and I went and had lunch with him, sat down, and listened to him.
Who paid?
Because me, of course. I'm not like you. We're not all like you. But the reality of it is, I'm allowed to criticise the fight. You got all humpy with me because I criticised you once. But criticism, if I can praise you, I should be able to criticise you. And you know I respect you, and I'm fond of you.
You know what?
But sometimes you do
make
nonsense.
Peace with Conor now. It's done. We love Conor.
Listen, I've got no reason to make peace or make enemies of people.
Before I go home, I want to give a shout out to Turkey Al Sheikh. He's done very well for boxing.
Sycophant. A moment ago, you were criticising him. Make your mind up.
Hey, I want to get a payday.
I know, exactly like I just said.
You know what? That guy hasn't given me a payday, yeah? And if you don't now, I'm just going to start talking rubbish about him. I'm being honest now. If you don't give me a payday in the next couple of months, yeah, I'm going bad hoof on him. I'm telling you right now.
Listen, cheers for stepping in. We appreciate it. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in and eviscerating as many people as possible in for 13 minutes. Derek Chisora, heavyweight boxer, in the studio for us today here on talkSPORT. Looking forward to that. Looking forward to hearing what happens at the Lions over the weekend because they've got the second test coming up, but they're still in action with the First Nations and Pacifica 15, and this is how it's standing on talkSPORT 2.
Jamie George puts it out for Duran van der Merwe. Jamie George's pass was forward.
He should actually come back for a penalty to the Lions here because it was a brilliantly slick move. And Finn Smith would have been on the end of it, having looped around. He did take the ball, but he was pulled by Riley just before he did, which took away all his pace. And I think he would have gone through and got away from the man who tackled him, which was Riley. But he just held him.
Let's go here, lads. Let's go. Last strong we improved. As talkSPORT listeners join us, we're 8 minutes into the second half of this final midweek game. The British and Irish Lions leading by 5. They're 19-14 up on the First Nations and Pacifica. Jamie Osborne has gone in for a try at the start of this second half. 14 all at the break. Osborne getting a pretty straightforward run in after some good work in the middle of the park. Crouch! And it is a scrum to the First Nations and Pacifica. 15 out from their own try line.
Fresh bodies on in that front row for First Nations Pacifica. They'll want to try and challenge the Lions. Well held.
Very strong scrum, that. And it's Jared McLeod who takes it.
Well, still in the balance, 14-19 in the Lions' favour over on talkSPORT 2. If you want to continue that, listening to that coverage, then it's talkSPORT 2 for you. You are listening to Matterface and Jordan. We're live on talkSPORT with Circuit Builders Warehouse. It's where the trade go. Next, we'll be speaking to the British and Commonwealth Super Featherweight champion, Reece Bellotti, ahead of his fight against Ryan Garner this Saturday. This Saturday sees a boxing double-header take place on both sides of the Atlantic as British titles on the line when Ryan Garner takes on Rhys Bellotti live from Bournemouth. And five-weight world champion, undisputed heavyweight champion Claressa Shields defends all of her titles against the two-weight world champion Lani Daniels in Detroit. It's live only on DAZN, and you can sign up at dazn.com/boxing.
Boxing Update on talkSPORT with DAZN, the global home of boxing. Buy now at dazn.com/boxing.
Rhys Bellotti, British and Commonwealth super featherweight champion, joins us live now to talk about his fight at the weekend. Hi, Rhys.
Hello, mate. How are you?
Yeah, good, thank you. Cheers for coming on the programme. Appreciate that. 6 consecutive victories. How are you feeling going into Saturday's fight?
Yeah, good. I'm in good form. I can't wait.
They've all come since you moved up to 130 pounds, the super heavyweight division. Do you feel more comfortable at that weight?
I wish it was the super heavyweight division.
The super lightweight, sorry. Super featherweight.
Super feather is much more suited to me.
Why?
Well, only really fighters would understand that extra £4 makes a massive difference to every fighter out there, and I just feel more comfortable at making the weight. It's never easy, but it's a lot more comfortable than it was than what I was making at featherweight.
First of all, Rhys, I owe you an apology because I picked Gomez in the fight against you when you two guys were all head-to-head, so I owe an apology for that, so I was wrong, and well done for that performance because it was a good performance. What does Ryan Garner present for you? European belt opportunity. What does he present in terms of a challenge for you as a fighter?
He's with Gomez, it was kind of just more the aggressive side of him, where Garner can do a bit of both.
Yeah.
He's got boxing brain. He's good with his feet. There's other aspects. He can also fight. So there's a few more aspects I've got to take into account here, and it's a challenge I'm looking forward to.
Okay, Sam, come.
I was just going to ask you. I think you were on the record of saying that there's no bad blood between you and Ryan. Was that going to make you calmer, more focused on the night? Does it make you a different prospect for him?
No, I think where there's a lot of respect between the two of us, I think it will make us both switch on the night, because you can't. It's not like against Gomez and stuff. As much as I wanted to win because of all the background stuff that happened, I kind of felt that he only really had one way of fighting, and I knew I was more than capable of beating that.
Is it a concerted plan on your part to pick the belts off at each level as you go? You've got the British and Commonwealth. You're now going for the European. Is that all part of the desire that you want to build through? Or is it just the opportunities presenting themselves?
No, 100%. I've always wanted to sort of go that way. Like when I come back at super featherweight, I went straight in at the Southern Area title, and then I missed the English title step, but I went up to Commonwealth, then the British, and I like this traditional route.
Listen, good luck on Saturday night. We're looking forward to it. We'll keep an eye on your progress as well. That's Rhys Bellotti joining us live this morning before he takes on Ryan Garner. Thank you very much for coming on the programme. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Let's turn our attention.
Good fighter, by the way.
Good fighter.
Good fighter.
You impressed?
Yeah, absolutely.
I like the fact that you had to apologise for
Well,
him.
because I was wrong. I mean, I picked Gomez Jr., and some of that was predominantly because of his heritage and who his lineage comes from. But Rhys performed really well in that fight. And these lesser divisions, like the super featherweights, they don't catch the attention of the media the way that the bigger divisions do. This is a good fighter, and I'd like to see him, put up a good performance on Saturday and ultimately win the belt. I like Ryan Garner as well. But it'll be a good fight.
Okay, well, we'll see this Saturday night. Looking forward to it. Right, Mikel Arteta has been speaking ahead of the side's pre-season tour of Asia, and he's been assessing the state of his squad.
It's still a long time, in the window, and we are seeking. Still, in terms of numbers, we are short, and we have to improve the depth and the quality of the squad, and we are constantly looking in the market. But till that happens, again, focus on the players that we actually have, work with them, and I'm very pleased with what I've seen so far in the first 10-15 days.
So what's he saying here? 4 in already, more to come. We understand Mosquera is very close to becoming signing number 5. Gyökeres could be signing number 6. Arsenal's net expenditure is only superseded by Manchester United and Liverpool. I mean, he's talked a lot, actually, and I watched the whole press conference earlier today, in which he sort of...
Do you like him, Arteta?
I do, yeah. I do like him. I think.
What do you like about him?
He's pretty clear. He's pretty honest, and I find that I think he probably is... I think if you assess the whole period of him being in charge, I think he's done a really good job because he took over a team that were struggling to be relevant, not constant Champions League campaigners. They'd finished 8th, I think, the season before, and he's taken to 3 second-place finishes. That's a good step in development. It's pretty clear what the problem is. They don't score enough goals.
Yeah.
That's obvious. You could just have a look at the bare statistics of the 4 column, and you can see they don't
that's
score.
not true, is it? Because
it is.
Well, is it true? Because we talked about their number 9 last year, and they clear evidence they needed number 9. Yet you looked at their scoring record the previous year, and I think they scored 80-odd goals.
Yeah, but this year they were miles off it compared to everyone else.
Sure, but they had the same conundrums as they had, and ultimately they're set up in a certain way. And some of the advantages of playing. I mean, I'm not a fan of the boy they bought from Chelsea.
Madueke?
No, the centre forward.
Oh,
Havertz, yeah. And I described him as a tax loss. I mean, I think he's a better player than that. But I think that he gives them something by going to a conventional number 9. Arsenal will lose something in achieving that, and it might not be that the ultimate outcome is all of a sudden they get lots more goals.
Well, they might reconfigure the midfield as well. I mean, Havertz might play a little bit deeper at times. He is a very creative player. They've got new wingers. So that's, and Nwaneri's going to be a year older as well, so they'll be able to rotate. I think another problem was they didn't rotate enough.
I was surprised at Odegaard last year. I expected
he was injured.
Was
I think it was carrying. He got injured when he went to international duty with Norway, and I don't ever think he got 100% fit off the back of that.
Arteta has to win something this season, though, doesn't he?
Why do you say that?
Because I think there's only so many times that you can keep on evolving to being a team that's progressing to eventually, or a team with potential, and somewhere along the line the potential has to be realised. You're now into the situation where I thought Arsenal would win the league last year, and the opportunity to win the league was there for them. Man City declined. Okay, Liverpool stepped up and stepped in.
They did.
But Arsenal didn't. And so with that in mind, I think that, and given the fact that he has been backed, and he's been backed extensively, and repeatedly backed, and I think if he gets the players that he's asking for this season, which he's getting Zubimendi, he'll get the centre forward that he wants, I suspect. I think if he doesn't win something rather significant, now whether that's a cup or whether it's the league, I think he'll find himself in a situation where Arsenal change.
As you already pointed out, and you talked about this when you were talking about Chelsea, you said that it's not just down to Arsenal. There are other teams that are all trying to do the same thing. So the fact that he has made them serial challengers when before they were nowhere near that, and hadn't been for a very long time. They haven't won the league since the Invincibles, remember?
I accept that in the same way that I accept the premise of the fact that Eddie Howe's done a brilliant job at Newcastle, but I've made the constant claim, with no disrespect to Eddie, because I like him, I think he's done a wonderful job, that I don't think he'll win the league for Newcastle. I don't think he'll be in situ when Newcastle wins something bigger than the League Cup. I hope I'm wrong.
Well, winning that was amazing for them.
Well, sure, fine. No more amazing than Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup. Yeah, all the
that was amazing for them too.
Well, if you listen to the media, loving and the absolute adoration that poured out of Newcastle winning the League Cup was not superseded by Crystal Palace winning the FA Cup, was not even matched. And that's not me being an ex-Crystal Palace owner or Crystal Palace fan. It's me saying, where is all this emotion and nonsense about Newcastle winning the League Cup? I'm sure the Saudis didn't buy Newcastle to win the League Cup.
Are you Crystal Palace fan ringing up saying that no one gives us enough attention here?
No, I'm saying that there was this ridiculous... I got criticised for not being on the emotional bandwagon of being so thrilled that Newcastle won the League Cup.
That's great for them.
And fantastic, but the ridiculous outpouring of love from certain aspects of the media. I remember sitting in the studio with Jim and Martin and all that. Well, you're an Arsenal fan, you're a Rangers fan, you don't really care about this. We're all doing this for the purpose of joining in on the bandwagon of being so enthused when most of us don't really care. So I got vilified for that. But yet when Palace won the FA Cup, there wasn't this emotional outpouring from everybody that's not a Newcastle fan saying, or Palace fan saying, isn't it wonderful that XYZ football club has done something it's never done before?
Well, I'm going to show you a video in the break of Cup final day, and then you might change your mind a little bit.
Well, you may be the exception, but that doesn't prove the rule.
Not just me, but yeah. We'll see. Next, we'll be looking ahead to Rangers Champions League qualification about tonight. They take on Panathinaikos.
Well, you heard them roar, and now they're back for more. The Lionesses have a chance to make it to their third consecutive major tournament final as they take on Italy tonight at the Euros. And we asked ex-England striker Tash Dowie whether they go into this one as the favourites.
Absolutely they are. I think Italy, out of the 4 teams that are left, are the underdogs, and Girelli was actually interviewed about that and said that that's completely fine, but games aren't won on paper. Games are won on the pitch, and Italy will show a lot of passion. They've got nothing to lose. The pressure is definitely on England going into this game, being the holders.
Not sure England fans will be able to handle another penalty shootout after that nail-biter against Sweden, but just in case, how long have the team been practising penalties for, Serena Wiegman?
You practice hours and hours. Over the last months, you know that when you go into a tournament and you come in a knockout stage that you can go to penalties. So it's something that players train penalties all the time, also at club.
Elsewhere, Brian Mbermo's joined what he calls his dream club, Man United, on a 5-year deal. But is the club really on the rise? Well, there are still doubts about the manager's adaptability.
Amorim dug himself a little bit of a hole by being so persistent to that system, because I think he should have said, listen, I do favour the 3-4-3 system. I've had a lot of success with it. I hope I can make it work at Manchester United, but I need to look at the players that I've got.
All your latest is at talksport.com.
talkSPORT, Sam Matterface and Simon Jordan. Coldplay are back at Wembley this summer, and we're giving you the chance to win a huge VIP prize. We're giving you the chance to win 6 tickets in a private box for you and your mates, August 22nd, full hospitality and a whopping 10 grand spending money, all completely tax-free. You just enter if you're over 18 and in the UK, excluding Northern Ireland, for a chance to win. Just text the word WIN to 83338. 4th of August at 11 o'clock is the closing deadline, and you'll be in the draw. Text costs £2 plus 1 standard network rate message. You must have the bill payer's permission, or post your name and number to Coldplay Competition, PO Box 3190, Colchester CO28GP, to arrive by 5 p.m. on the 7th of August. It's a talkSPORT limited promotion run on talkSPORT, Talk and Virgin Radio UK stations. All T's and C's apply. talksport.com. Let's get off for 2 with the First Nations and Pacifica 15 against the British and Irish Lions. Find out how they're getting on. Alfie Reynolds.
65 minutes gone here in Melbourne. It's the First Nations and Pacifica 15-14, the British and Irish Lions 24, and Duhan van der Merwe has just scored for what could be a crucial try. It just gives the Lions a bit of breathing space. Also in this second half, Jamie Osborne scored his second and the Lions' third try. That goes along with the try he scored in the first half. Darcy Graham also crossed in the opening 40, and it was Tristan Riley and Seru Uru crossing for the home side. Commentary of the game is available over on talkSPORT 2. We're heading towards the closing stages. The First Nations and Pacifica 15-14, the British and Irish Lions 24.
Qatar Airways Lions Tour update on talkSPORT, with coverage sponsored by Tenor Men. You're not the only one looking for a solid defence down under. Upgrade your protection. Visit tenormen.co.uk today.
Rangers seasons gets underway tonight with the Champions League qualification game against Panathinaikos, but it's not going to be season defining according to Russell Martin. Let's speak to Scottish football journalist Bill Leckie, who joins us on the show now. Hi, Bill.
Hi, how are we doing?
Yeah, very good, thank you. Despite the money at stake, Russell Martin yesterday was playing down the importance of tonight's game.
It's not going to be a season defining game. It's not. So it's a really, really big game.
but the season is a long season. We'll be defined by what we do between now and May. So you can build it up to be that. It's a big game. Every game for Rangers is a big game. Every game is a must-win at Rangers. But it's not season-defining. The squad will look very different in 4 or 5 weeks. I'm convinced of that. But the team we have now, the squad we have now, we have to put in a performance that looks like us, feels like us, and one that we can build off and ultimately win the game.
When you heard him say that yesterday, Bill, what were your thoughts?
It's what I expected him to say. He's been trying to play things down ever since he came in, Sam. I would say, were I a Rangers fan, I would be looking to, they would be hoping to get through this tie and progress in the Champions League, but I think in their heart of hearts they know that Rangers have established themselves over the years as probably a Europa League team. So it's probably not season-defining if they go out of the Champions League. It might be, certainly in the short term, some kind of definition of how they play and how they win or lose. Because a lot of people are unsure about what they're going to get from Rangers under Russell Martin. A lot of people aren't sure that they've upgraded at all in the transfer dealings so far. And there's a great feeling that they might be a bit undercooked, which is kind of not to be unexpected with the short time he's had to get things done.
In a way, I suppose it isn't season-defining, Bill, because once upon a time, the argument was that there was investor fatigue in Rangers and ultimately the board weren't prepared to put any money in. We'll probably see a different attitude from the 49ers, albeit the 20 million announcement from them wasn't particularly earth-shattering. Are you impressed with the appointment of Russell Martin, Bill?
Not massively, and I don't mean that in any disrespect to him. I think it's the kind of thing I think the 49ers would do when you look at what they've done at Leeds with Daniel Farke. Not somebody that would have blown the fans away, but he's done a great job. So maybe Russell Martin will be the same. I think coming off his last experience, I don't think fills Rangers fans with a huge amount of confidence. I think you've got two different mindsets here, Simon. You've got the 49ers trying to do things methodically, slowly, properly, which is what Rangers have needed for a long time, building from the bottom up, sorting out an awful lot of mess. There's an awful lot more about Rangers that's wrong than just a team that hasn't been winning. But on the other side, you've got, as you know yourself, you've got a set of fans there who want to hit the ground running and win every game right now, and especially catch up with Celtic. So a manager at Rangers, they might want time, but they won't get time. They will not. Every game is defining for a Rangers manager.
Are they better? I mean, we talked last year and debated with Souness and Martin O'Neill about the gap between Celtic and Rangers. And every time they went in, Rangers were getting beat by Celtic. Now, they've beaten Celtic on a couple of occasions last year and let themselves down against lesser opposition. Do you think Russell Martin is likely to bridge the gap better? I'm glad they didn't put Barry Ferguson. With no respect to Barry, I think that would have been a bad decision and a decision based upon playing to the gallery. Do you think he's likely to pull them closer to Celtic, the Celtic that currently exists?
Right now, I'd say no. I might be completely wrong. I don't see that the signings that have come in, the kind of Bournemouth fringe players, a couple of Championship players, a Peterborough centre-half, it doesn't feel to me, as I say, like upgrades. They could still lose players that they had last season, like Hamza Ngamami could be going. Cyril Dessers has been linked with moves away. So as Russell Martin says that the team will look very different in a few weeks' time. But in a few weeks' time, things could already be on top of him. If you see what I mean by that, things could come on top very quickly if he doesn't get something out of the players he has right now.
How important is it for Rangers to find a way, a path into European football this season, bearing in mind that Celtic aren't going straight into the league phase of the Champions League? I mean, you could be in a situation here, if things go badly, that Celtic end up in the Europa League and Rangers don't end up in Europe at all, because if they were to lose tonight and then lose the next game, then there's a distinct possibility that they won't be playing any European football. So how important is it that they find a way into one competition?
Yeah, or they could both be in the Champions League, Sam.
They could do. Yeah, if we're being optimistic, Bill, you're absolutely right. Yeah.
I think Celtic punched above their weight in the Champions League last year. If you take away that the 7-goal hammering in Dortmund, they did very well. They were very close to taking Bayern Munich all the way in the first in the knockout qualifying game. But I think Rangers and Celtic are both good Europa League teams. I think they could both make an impact in the Europa League. Although the finances are much better in the Champions League and the glamour of it's blah, 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 I think in terms of what they have, they would both make a good fist of the Europa League. And I think if both of them could do that, and if we could get the other three teams, Dundee United and Hibs and Aberdeen, moving into the group stages of their tournaments, I think that it could be it would really help Scottish football this season. But it all starts tonight. And I genuinely don't know what you'll get from Rangers.
Yeah, well, I think it's been great that the Scottish teams have always had access to the group stages of the competition. Well, have done over the last few years, and that's now come to an end. So you've got to cross your fingers and hope that Celtic get into the Champions League phase, because I did a couple of their games actually last year, and I thought that they were entertaining. The first game, I can't remember who they played. Was it Slovan Bratislava? The first game?
Slovan Bratislava. They were magnificent against Slovan Bratislava.
Absolutely,
took them apart. They were fantastic. And you know, when you look at what they gave to that format, which was a very open attacking format, I thought, right across the board. You know, and they had a great game down at Villa where they lost 4-2. They beat Bratislava 5-1. Had a great game against Bruges where they drew. They more than justified their place in the Champions League. They did contribute, which they haven't done in previous attempts in the Champions League, and they'll want to go in and try and push on. I think they are much more equipped to do that than Rangers are. I actually don't think it'd be a very good thing for Rangers to be in the Champions League, because it might knock them back a little bit. Although they might come out with 3 or 4 signings that change that completely, we don't know. But I think for the 49ers, this is more of a long-term project, and Rangers fans might have to be a little bit patient.
Bill, great to talk to you as always. Have a good evening. Rangers Panathinaikos in the Champions League qualifiers tonight. We've got commentary of England against Italy in the Women's Euros, and we'll be updating you throughout the course with Paul Mitchell on Rangers and Panathinaikos during that programme. You're listening to Sam Matterface and Simon Jordan. We're here on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's Real Deal at selcobw.com. Next, we're talking about the Lions. They're leading 24 points to 14. Just a few minutes to go there. Owen Farrell captain the side. We'll talk about some of his comments next. let's get to the third women's ODI between England and India. It gets underway at 1 o'clock in Durham. Georgie Heath will be reporting for talkSPORT today. Georgie.
Yeah, it's the series decider, this one, the last in India's tour of England. India have won the toss and decided to have a bat. It is 1-1 in this ODI series after India took the T20 series. It was somewhat of a surprise, actually, perhaps to some England fans under this new Charlotte Edwards, Nat Sciver-Brunt regime. So it's all to play for today in Durham as they look ahead to that ODI World Cup, which is coming up in, well, not that long away now, in September in India and Sri Lanka. So today is about trying to take home some silverware for England and try and bag the final win in this 3-match series. It's currently 1-1 after England won at Lord's on the weekend. So the news is that India have won the toss, decided to have a bat. There's 2 changes for England today. Lauren Filer and Alice Davidson-Richards come in to replace Emily Arlott and Maya Boucher, and England, they will be bowling first.
OK, let's head back out to Australia to find out how a First Nations and Pacifica game is going for the British and Irish Lions. Here's talkSPORT's Alfie Reynolds.
Well, 3 minutes to go here in Melbourne. First Nations and Pacifica 19, the British and Irish Lions 24. Rob Leota's try for the home side has set up a great finish here. We're back within a score. The Lions' tries in this match, 2 in either half, have been scored by Van der Merwe, Graham and twice for Osborne. But this has been a real test for the British and Irish Lions. The closing stages available over on talkSPORT 2. As things stand at the moment, 2.5 to go. First Nations and Pacifica 19, the British and Irish Lions 24.
Qatar Airways Lions Tour update on talkSPORT with coverage sponsored by Tenor Men. You're not the only one looking for a solid defence down under. Upgrade your protection. Visit tenormen.co.uk today.
Yeah, been a bit of a bruising encounter. Thanks, Alfie. Let's pick out who's been the real deal this week with Selco Builders Warehouse.
The Real Deal on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. For the latest special offers, pick up this month's Real Deals in branch or view online at selcobw.com.
Owen Farrell has been talking about social media. When the fly half was called up for the Lions, his 4th tour, after not playing any rugby in 9 weeks and having not played in the Test arena in 20 months following his break from England, there was whirlwind protest among followers of the sport. Owen Farrell captained the British and Irish Lions today, and by all accounts played very well, making him our real deal. But ahead of the match, he spoke about the abuse he received on social media following his call-up.
I understand that it's different now. I understand that times are different and that things catches fire and just takes its life of its own and goes wherever it goes, like, you know, and there's momentum behind it and so on. But both are a poison. Both as in, like, the good and the bad. Like, it's because not to say that it's all bad, but like the things that should matter to me and should matter to us as players is the people that matter to us. Like, not to say that people will just pat you on the back. You know that you have people who will tell you where it is at the same time, but they'll give you a real answer. Like, you know, that's what I was saying before, of making sure that I'm looking after myself, that that it's all coming from a good place in the first place. Then I think you're able to deal with more.
It's clear that many sports people are very aware about what is being said about them online now.
Yeah.
I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing, really. I think it
depends what you do with it. I mean, ultimately, I believe in resilience. I believe that people will need to overcome people's observations and value the ones that they value and disregard the ones that they don't. But we are now in a different generation and footballers come straight off pitch and look at social media and then are happy with the praise and not so happy with the criticism. I mean, I think Owen Farrell is an absolute leader. We had Ben Youngs on the show the other day, who's one of the most captain England rugby players, talking about the idea that Owen had been called up. David Campese had made some observations about nepotism and the fact that Andy Farrell calling up Owen was nepotism at its worst. But I think he's a natural leader, and I think he provides something in the environment, and clearly so do the people that make the decisions. But when you react to social media, I mean, I've been on the receiving end of people saying derogatory things, misrepresenting things, saying things about me that aren't true, or mischaracterising what I've said. I think as you get older, you get wiser, you get able to be more comfortable in your own skin. But I do think that there is an element of lack of resilience in society. It's not an antiquated mentality. It's not me living in a previous time where once upon a time people could do this and people could do that. And it's easy to say, pull yourself together. It is a fact of life. You either are resilient and you will either overcome these things, or what's the alternative? don't be resilient and be affected by them.
Yeah, I mean, I think what's clear is, and it was interesting that he said that it's all a poison, by the way, not just the derogatory stuff, but sometimes the positive stuff can be a negative in a sense as well, because you can sort of overinflate your own hype or whatever. But
that's about awareness of yourself.
Yeah, well, exactly. This is, and this I think is the key thing, isn't it? You know, I don't like the idea that the advice is if something goes wrong or you get abused, don't use it. Because why, as a victim of abuse, should you be the person that gets to lose out as a result of it? But at the same time, I think it's a personal choice, isn't it? It's if you decide that you don't want to put yourself through that or you're not interested. I actually find it a little bit boring now. I've got to be honest. A lot of it is boring.
I mean, so do I. I've found it boring for a very long time. Hence the reasons why I don't follow anyone on Twitter.
I was going to say I haven't been on Twitter for probably a year and a half because it's not for me really. It's just boring.
No, but I also am very keen to maintain the balance between separating legitimate abuse, and I don't mean legitimising abuse. I mean people that are being abusive and being discriminatory against people that have a critical opinion that you don't like. Because there's a propensity in society to suggest that because you don't like something that you're being abused as a result of it. If somebody uses a racial epithet or somebody uses anything that's discriminatory, that's abuse. Somebody says he doesn't like you because he thinks you're a crap player. That's not abuse, that's an opinion. And there is a conflation of that in society where people don't like to be criticised. No one likes to be criticised. Yeah, but everyone likes to be praised. But also it's
pretty blunt, isn't it? I mean, at the end of the day, if someone just says, I don't like them, then they're not very good or they're crap or whatever. That's just like, what are you taking from that?
I'm assuming
it's a micro-blogging site. At least have the wit and the personality to describe what the issue is.
Sure, but we know that ultimately the people that sit on there saying negative things about people on social media aren't actually programmed for questions themselves, probably don't do very much in their own lives, and probably sat most of the time in their mum's bedroom with their pants around their ankles, criticising other people because they can't do it themselves.
It's not a great image.
There is a balance between accepting the position that you have in society that people... There is only one thing worse than people talking about you is people not talking about you. And it's about when you realise that in life, that the only people whose opinions really matter are the people who you value and people who you respect. And if you've got a bunch of people on social media that are critical and biased in their outlook and have a preordained perspective of you, then I really don't know why these athletes and these younger members of society spend their time worrying about themselves.
Where does it end? Because will players start to be more cautious about using social media?
Well, they should be anyway.
Will they be eventually coming off sites? Or will it always be that the emerging talents always want to get attention on these social media sites, but when they become established, actually they hand it over to somebody else?
Well, they do that, and there's your answer to some extent. I mean, obviously, we've got a change in direction. Ofcom now have some governance over social media platforms where they didn't before with the Online Harms Bill 23, which gives them some jurisdiction. How much those teeth are,
I was going to say.
I would like to see, I've always wanted to see a lack of anonymity. I'd like to see people being accountable for what they say.
Yeah.
And then you'll find out people are not prepared to say so much. I think it goes with the territory. I think there are benefits and disadvantages of social media. Some people would say that an American president got elected on the back of social media, and some people say that was definitely a disadvantage. I'm not necessarily in that camp. I think, we are at a stage where athletes like social media. They like the upside of it. They don't like the downside of it. And if you're in a situation where, like so many things in life, you can't just take the upsides. You can't.
That was a pick for this week's Real Deal with Selco Builders Warehouse. For this week's latest special offers, pick up this month's Real Deals in branch or view online at selcobw.com.
The Real Deal on talkSPORT with Selco Builders Warehouse. Check out this month's Real Deals at selcobw.com.
British and Irish Lions have won against the First Nations and Pacifica 15. 24 points to 19. It's just been concluded down under, the fallout from which and all the post-match reaction is available on talkSPORT 2. In the next few minutes, just download the talkSPORT app. You can flick between the two stations. Big night tonight in the Women's Euros. It's the Lionesses against Italy live on talkSPORT. We're on air from 8 o'clock and we've got full commentary with Joe Shannon and Tash Dowie. And the big transfer news in the last few minutes, just reaching me now, that Granit Xhaka has not only said that he wants a Sunderland move, but he has agreed personal terms. We're going to get Granit Xhaka back in the Premier League.
Interesting. I mean, Sunderland have done well. This young owner that often I've looked back on and thought, well, I'm not sure what you know.
He's got a good recruitment team.
He appears to have. And also the appointment of the manager was a left field appointment that most people looked at and went, what? Worked out.
Yeah.
We'll see. Sunderland back in the Premier League. Great for North Eastern derbies.
Yeah, I think they did really well last year, actually. And I did the final, and they probably shouldn't have got through, but they stuck in the game, came up with a moment right at the very end. It was a terrific goal. It was a bit of a good wave goodbye from Tommy Watson, who's now gone to Brighton.
Yeah, and Chris Wilder got to wave goodbyes to his job as a result of it.
Yeah, it's a bit of a shame, really, because I think he's done a really good job to get them into that position as well. I know that... obviously he'll be much sought after, Chris, because he is almost an expert in getting teams out of that division. But he's done very well with Sheffield United, even if it hasn't worked out elsewhere for him at Watford and Middlesbrough. Simon, thank you very much for today.
Welcome,
and I'll see you tomorrow. See you tomorrow. Looking forward to it. We'll see you then. Coming up next, it's Hawksby and Baker.